Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's Tech Talk time, which basically is a weekly podcast that we do, kind of talking about War Thunder stuff and other things. We basically take the comments from, the previous Tech Talk and then kind of do it on there. I didn't record it on Friday this time, instead we're recording it on Saturday, and the reason is because of the dev server. There's been a lot going on this week, I think it's fair to say. We're going to also be completing the Coastal Aggressor while we do this, just because it's easier to do. But yeah, it's been a bit of a nuts time in War Thunder. We obviously had the teaser trailer, the sneak peeks, the dev server. Like, it's once again pandemonium in the game, and there's just so much stuff going on. So it's been kind of nuts to cover everything, which is why I'm recording this slightly late, but it still should come out on Sunday. And there's a few other things that I'm a little bit late on too. Stuff like there's a few new leaks when it comes to the dev server that should have come out by the time you see this on YouTube. And then also at the same time, big controversy with one of the technical moderators, which, to be honest, I'm still trying to work out what has gone on, because my god, the reading about the whole thing is just completely ridiculous as usual. So let's go through the comments. If you want something featured or chatted about in the next tech talk, make sure to stick it in the comment section of this video, or come along to the live streams and you can ask it live and we can go through it too, which is another way. So first of all, we have Karam Chan with the timestamps. As always, thank you for going through this. Thank you for doing it. It is very kind of you for setting that up. And then we have Noah Glennon, which is quite a fun name. Just want to say thank you for making all the content you do. Me and my mate love it. Well, I mean, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. We'll see what goes on in January. I kind of want to focus maybe a little bit on some other ideas in January when it comes to War Thunder, trying to do some beginners guides, trying to do some like general things about how certain weapons work and what could we see in the future, predictions, hopes, and reviews, stuff like that. But we'll see how it goes. The last few months have just been nuts when it comes to setting up a lot of different things, which is crazy. Nice to see you, A10. Hopefully you're doing good, man. But yeah, thanks for watching, I suppose, is the way to the way to go. Like, the brakes are not on, the train never stops, and I hope that's kind of been proven the last few months, where even with everything going on, we've just kept going. Another thing to also mention is I am feeling pretty under the weather right now. Flu season, so always enjoyable. We also have Miroslan. Do you think that when Gadget adds even crazier ordnance for planes like Brimstones and AGM-88s, they add them only for air modes? Or do you think that they will have balanced cast by then? Or just chuck it in like they have done so far? I honestly think they'll just chuck it in like they have done so far. I was actually thinking about the harms the other day, the AGM-88. The AGM-88 is a what do you call it? It's a seed setup, right? So it's designed to go after radars, I believe. So basically, it means that if it homes in on like radar signals, so it's an anti-radiation missile. Yeah, that's the word for it. And the reason why they said they're not adding the Shrike is because Shrikes were designed for bigger radar systems, and therefore they weren't really used. Well, if you've seen one of the leaks, which, once again, if you're seeing this on YouTube, then then I would have already made a video on it. But if you're watching on Twitch, there was a bunch of leaks for new ground targets in air modes, and all of them are basically radar slash missile installations. So the OTR 21 Tochka S-300 missile system, MIM 23 Hawk, the Patriots, the Lance, like all of these things are there when it comes to that setup. So for me, I feel like that is the precursor step to getting stuff like the AGM-88. Nice to see you, Sargeman. Hopefully you're doing good. So I think eventually we get those, right? I do think they come in. That is one of the mechanics that they haven't, added in and hasn't really been hugely talked about. But we have a lot of vehicles which can use anti-radiation stuff right now, or even, variants of them which were specifically designed for that idea. Nice to see you, Piece of the Great. Hopefully you're doing good, man. So I feel like, yes, we will see them. Will they be limited to a mode? No. No, they'll be available in every mode, because that's how they do them. They'll balance them by SP, or that will be what they say that they're going to do. Whether they do it or not, of course, is a completely different story. But yeah, I don't see why they would limit them to a specific mode. I don't even know if there's a mechanism to do that. And also, imagine the backlash from people, right? This is something you always have to take into account. We've seen it with like the Gripen, during this dev server. We've seen it with a few other things, everybody getting annoyed at high tier armor vehicles once again. But the fact is when you deal with a lot of people who really want something in the game, if you then limit its use in the game, they become very, very aggressive and just do really silly things. So, for example, the guy who literally got doxxed the other day because of people believed that he was dismissing bug reports on spore liners, right? Just imagine like sitting there like 5 years ago and saying that sentence, and how ridiculous it is. And I've talked about in the past how individuals have gone after me in my personal life because of things that I've said on the internet, and you always have people turn around and go, well, who would do that? And now you have a literal full-on example of it happening in the open, which has been talked about. It's just nuts at the end of the day. So like that's the set of people that you're kind of dealing with, who can be quite animalistic in how they deal with stuff. So if you start limiting that set of people to specific game modes because they want specific things to use in specific other areas, it's only going to end badly. It also goes against their philosophy. The philosophy of the whole idea of, they want to... Yeah, he did, Sargeman. It goes against their whole philosophy of trying to bring in like a full, like a full combat, not really simulator, but a full combat experience. They've talked about that in the past. The idea how they want to try and meld everything. They want to try and put everything in the same place and, try and make it work together, even if it doesn't very well. And I feel like with mechanics like anti-radiation missiles, there are a lot of other mechanics that I can think of which would have been much better if they were just limited to specific modes and not other ones, and they have chosen not to do it there. So I would be incredibly surprised if they do that. So yeah, they will come in, I think, now that we are at that stage of kind of development of aviation forces. It just kind of sucks that pretty much every single thing that's going to be added to aviation is just going to crucify ground going forward, which is what we already see. Thank you for the subscription, Coolit. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Right, so let's go on to the next one. We have Killian Play SWT. Killian's that funny like Norwegian YouTuber, isn't he? Oh, Jesus. We're getting torped. 2 seconds. How did I miss? Oh, I didn't kill him? Wow. That sucks. Ooh. Jesus. Tough times in the in this thing right now. Hey TEC and everyone, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I hope you're doing well too. Hopefully life's treating you good. Let's see. Could you do a little recap of the week's news? Love the tech talks, keep up the good work. Do you mean in like a video? Like a news of the week? I mean, I could, but I mean... Right, so let's do it right here. So what has happened this week, okay? Let's go through it. What have we seen? We've had two change logs. We've had like maybe 10 data mines. We have the sneak peek. We have the trailer. Sorry, two sneak peeks, the trailer, three separate dev servers, and like 20 or 30 new vehicles. And that's just off the top of my head. Plus you have the controversy stuff on the forums. Plus you have the controversy stuff on the Reddit. Plus you have like the leaks. I suppose that there was two sets of leaks this time as well. And also you had the pasta developers, which came out just at the tail end of last week, which is already there too. So a recap doesn't really work. I thought about this idea in the past because there was a YouTuber who used to do recaps. 2 and 900. If you remember 2 and 900, rest in peace. Unfortunately committed suicide a few years ago now, which was incredibly sad and still is. But he used to do weekly recaps. He used to do, the whole thing about hey, this was the weekly news. And it works really well. But at the same time, it is not economically beneficial. And the amount of effort that goes into it, since I already do the videos, would be kind of pointless. So the only way that something like that would work is if I could get somebody to do all of the editing for all of the news that has gone on. And then also at the same time, I would just kind of have like a prepared script and then do it through there. Which, I mean, like, it just seems kind of crap. I don't know how else to put it. I'd rather do the way that I do stuff now, where I suppose we have like the tech talk at the end of the week, where, some of the stuff's talked about. And then also, we have the individual videos. Because imagine... So, at this moment in time this week, I've probably produced about 50 videos. There's a lot of them which are scheduled, which haven't come out yet, just because of the fact that I need to check them, and I haven't had time to check them. So, the simple thing is trying to condense all of that information into, let's say, 10 minutes or 20 minutes can't exist. Which is why when people always talk about, well, why don't you make your videos shorter, or why don't you change, something about it so you can get information quicker, like do what other YouTubers do, where they cut out like, the breathing in their audio, or make it, sound like there is no like space between your natural talking, which is one of the things I really struggle with like listening to, because I really disagree with it. And when I sit here and I think about it, I go like, well, yeah, I mean, I could technically do that, but the amount of time it would take me to set that up, and also the benefit of doing it, is pretty much nothing. Because it goes against the stuff I kind of like making and have made for years, and also it's a money sink at the end of the day. Because I would have to take time away from doing something else, like whether it be work stuff or whether it be family stuff, and it wouldn't be beneficial. So that's basically why. The condensation of, or condension, not condensation, but like where you condense stuff. I don't know what the word is, but the ability to do that on this type of level, it just means you miss a metric ton of stuff. There used to be a guy who used to do, I don't know if he still does, but he used to do like the dev server in 60 seconds, which, you can do, but also at the same time, you just miss a metric ton of stuff doing that. And it doesn't actually give you a fair shake of what's actually on the dev server. What it does is it tells you the highlights, and some people just want the highlights. But then when people take those as gospel and then go on to the next thing, then everything kind of falls apart. So because, you know, stuff like, well, for example, the dev server it's had 3 separate variants in 2 days. Right? It's nuts when it comes to it. So yeah, it would be cool to do, but at the same time, I do not have the time, and it isn't beneficial to me in any way to do it. I already do a metric ton of stuff that is technically not beneficial to me when it comes to looking after certain things. I don't think more on top of it, especially at these periods, is a good idea. So then we have Fadishish. Do you think they'll ever do a large naval update again? Subs have been teased multiple times, but Coastal hasn't gone anywhere in years and Blue Water feels stale. It feels like naval battles need a total overhaul to focus on longer games with objectives, much like the endurance battles, and to change the maps to stop the ability to be shot from spawn at the start of the game. I hear this a lot from people who don't like the standard way that naval battles go. My answer is no, they don't need to change it. I don't think it would actually be a good idea to change it, because there's this idea of making naval battles longer and making them more, I suppose realistic would be the word that I would use. It's one that's bounded around a lot of the time, and all the things that I can say is it reminds me of a conversation that used to happen all the time in Air, which was, why don't we have Air RBEC? Why don't we have it? Why don't we have it as a separate game mode? So this happened for like 2 or 3 years, right? And then Gaijin made Air RBEC. They actually did like a few month-long event where they ran a different Air RBEC every weekend. Kind of like what they do with Naval, right? And then they stopped doing it. And the reason for it is because nobody played it. And when they did play it, they used it to basically abuse game mechanics to be able to grind vehicles instead of actually enjoying the game mode. And the reason I know this is because when they brought back Air RBEC, because they did do that several times, then when they changed the modifiers to focus it more on gameplay instead of just grinding like bombing bases and hitting ground targets, there was a massive pushback from people saying, well, there's no point in playing this now. It's like, well, okay, so you're either playing it because you're enjoying it, or you're playing it because you just want to use it to grind out stuff. And you would usually play the normal game mode anyway, if that wasn't the case, right? Because there was a lot of people who said that. So with Naval AB or Naval RBEC, first of all, you already have that. Happens on the weekends. And if it became, very popular, then of course they're going to move it to a stage where it covers, the rest of the game. But at the same time, if you did something like that, then you would lose me as a player. And I'm sure you would lose a lot of other people as players who don't want to play that. I don't want to play a environment where if I'm not in the large ship because I haven't been in the game for long enough, or I haven't cheesed the spawn points enough, that I just don't want to get beaten up by something that's better than me. I would rather play something that's at my BR. I don't want to sit there for ages going towards a specific position just to be able to fire torpedoes and fire cannons. I actually want to be involved in the action. I want to, do stuff. I don't want to just sit back and do nothing and, just kind of stand there. And if they ever did change over to that type of game mode where it's just a massive map where people just wander around in, like, then if you actually have a look at a lot of the games that exist, when it comes to naval combat, the ones which are like that have absolutely tiny player bases. They are minute. The thing that people praise World of Warships for as a naval game is the fact that they sped up the naval like the naval battles. You know, you weren't just standing around for ages waiting for stuff to happen. So the idea that to throw away, you know, stuff like that and instead focus on longer battles with objectives which are all over the place, and you have to go from A to B and you have to shoot B to C, and then you gotta, once you die, you have to like move to another thing, or oh, and there's just a guy on the corner just torpedoing your spawn over and over again, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like if you have these like types of scenarios, you'll just lose so many players. And I get that there is like a set of people who just want something different, and that's fine. Like the best thing to do in that scenario is to play the Naval EC, try and get more people involved in it. If it gets popular enough, then they'll expand it even more. And the other one is, of course, to create your own stuff, which is something we've talked about previously, which is an idea that gets a lot of pushback, even though it's the correct idea. And it's because either people don't have the time to do stuff and want other people to do it, which is completely fine, or they find the tools at their disposal are not good enough to do it, which once again is a question for another time. So, for me, the answer is no. I don't think I would want that. I don't think Naval needs a big overhaul. I think they're already going to have enough issues trying to fix or fill, you know, submarines and aircraft carriers and all that stuff into the game. I don't think, you know, throwing everything out of the window and, you know, moving stuff around is a good idea. I think it makes much more sense to just go with what they've got and then just add stuff on top of it, because right now Naval, like, as a game mode is, you know, quite enjoyable, at least for me. But I understand it's personal opinion, and I've been here long enough where I've seen every single type of opinion that people have, and they all just get repeated like 50,000 times over and over. Make it bigger. Okay, well, let's make it bigger. What objectives do you add? Oh, well, let's add a minefield. Let's add outposts that you can attack. Let's add this. Let's add that. One of the things that when you start going through these ideas, you need somebody there who is a moron, and you also need somebody there who is an abuser. And you need to run the ideas that you have past them and work out how they would break the system, and then see how you can fix it from there, or how do you keep them interested in the system when you are technically, you know, annihilating it for them. Hey Carbon, nice to see you. Think the winter event goes live with the big update? Yeah, I think so. It seems like that's what's going to happen, because I think the winter event vehicles are in the files for the dev server. So you have Antoniono, whatever it is. Hey Tech, hi. I don't hang around much in your content, so I'm somewhat certain it's been asked before. What are your thoughts on a crew healing mechanic? I just hate having red gunners or loaders I can't do anything about. It'd be neat if they tied it to crew replenishment, like healing injured crew when you get a fresh dude at a cap. Yeah, we actually talked about it last time, surprisingly enough. So I feel like this is one of those things that has been talked about quite a lot previously. Just give people 2 crew replenishments, and you can use one crew. You can use the crew replenishments for healing a crew member or for replacing one. There you go. Simple as. So 1 crew replenishment can be used for replacing a member. 1 can be used for healing, but technically both can be used for healing, whereas only 1 can be used for replacement. So you give 2 charges, but only 1 can be used for replacement, but both can be used for healing if you want. That's how I would do it. Because I do agree, it is kind of annoying when you're in those situations where you have a tomato crew and you just sat there like, oh, well, what do I do here? It is also kind of a first world problem, which is something we don't really talk about too much. Because in order to get like tomato crews a lot of the time, you already have to have pretty good crews to survive shots. So your vitality has to be pretty high on, your vitality has to be pretty high on your crew members to be able to survive the shots in the first place. So if your vitality is high, then you know, you're already surviving more than you should. So yeah, it's a bit of a first world problem, but it is something that it would be nice to see it addressed, especially now, you know, crew skill. I want crew skills to be a lesser factor for people, in terms of, you know, them trying to learn the game and trying to understand their skills. The less RNG stuff, the better, and stuff like that is all based around percentages, which of course isn't very good for the average player. I play War Thunder like a secondary game thing as well. I started off maining SPA years ago when I started because my old potato laptop couldn't run well even at UOQ. But it managed to give me a workable FPS if I looked up at the sky ignoring the ground. I still do often nowadays, even with a monster PC. Keeps me happy, and my team clear of the damn CAS everyone whines about. If only they made the RB rewards for killing aircraft a bit higher. They're rarer than tanks, and depending on the circumstance, it takes more skill to shoot down. Might incentivize more players to put up SPA or their lineups and steal my kills. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I would personally want gun SPA kills increased. I don't think missiles need to be increased because literally it's missile AAs, especially nowadays, are some of the easiest things to use in the game. Like especially some of the crazier ones. So I think for ones which are, as I said, like gun orientated, yeah, like go ahead, have a bit of fun with it. But ones which are more orientated around missiles and stuff like that, I think they're fine how they are. It would be nice to see more people playing stuff like SPAAs. I do see a lot of complaining about CAS. But the main thing I would actually want people to do, which I think is a bit more important than SPAAs at the moment, is to actually start bringing a fighter in your lineups. The way that SP costs are right now, you have to do a very small amount of stuff to actually get the spawn points to go into a fighter. So I would actually prefer if people just went into fighters. I think because then, you know, you have control of the battlefield. You're able to, you know, do secondary stuff or, you know, primary stuff with it, and it's easier to use than an SPAA. So we have Away With You, Valbega. Let's see what is said. Let's just do this. Oh, I'm so dozy right now. I forgot how funny it is to to be ill. I'm like, ooh, like a zombie. So, Away With You, Vile Vega. Hey Tech, quick query this week. I was going to talk about future additions to the game, but before I do that, I wanted to know if we have any old planes that have been heavily modified, example like the modern Croatian MiG, already in the game. If yes, then are they prey when they get bumped to the higher tier, or are they playable because of the new technology? This question would apply more to the jet era vehicles, since that's when smart missiles appear, but not all jets have countermeasures. Thanks, and having a relaxing December, and happy holidays to everybody. Yeah, happy holidays. Hopefully have a good one. They get hammered, is probably the way to put it. S199. S199, A7, even stuff like the F105, when they decide to take away its airspawn. A lot of vehicles which start have countermeasures, F-86, F-40 is another one. There used to be a time where certain vehicles like that were very powerful, but nowadays it definitely isn't the case. So, yeah, usually they just get smacked. F-100s for the longest time, when they didn't give them a nice BR. F-104s as well, like the F-104J. Usually those vehicles are either in positions where they're incredibly powerful, but nowadays most of them are not. Yeah, the Saber Dog too. Croatian, good point. Yeah, F-86K. So yeah, it's usually if you take an airframe and you put very powerful ordnance on it, it goes one or two ways. It's either crazy powerful, or it's completely useless. And the Su-25 and the A-10, when they were at lower BRs, should, have kind of shown that. And also the A7 right now. The two versions of it, in specific circumstances, are crazy good. In other circumstances, they're completely useless. I've just realized I've run out of rounds. So yeah, it's one of those things which, at least for me, when you have a look at that stuff, I would say it's definitely on the other end of things. There has been some examples of it not being that, but mostly it is. So, yeah, not very fun at the end of the day. Hey, Donny B, nice to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing good. So then we have MJ. Tech Dude. MJ Dude. I hope you had a good week. I finished spading the M4T26, and while I had some success with it and a positive KD, I feel that 6.0 is a bit high of a BR for that. I think it would be fair, much better at 5.7, since it only has the M82 shell, but no APCR or heat FS. To be honest, having it at the same BR as the M51 is laughable. My experiences in the M51 were awful. Hey MJ, nice to see you. But that was mainly down to crew skills, not how good the vehicle was. I would probably, it's a weird spot because that gun is pretty powerful. The reload is a bit annoying, but I feel like if you leave it at the BR that it's at, or you put it down, it doesn't really affect too much, especially since they just did some decompression around the area. So whatever was decided to be done, I don't think I would mind with it. I'm not sure what the lineups are now around 6.0 for America, but I know they moved around a lot of different things, so maybe that would affect it a bit. I would personally be fine, whatever, because my experience around it was fine. Like the 90 is good. It works well. It doesn't need heat FS because it mainly faces Panthers and Tigers. The main thing is that when you get a full up tier against 6.7 heavies, then you realize how weak that gun is. And as somebody who's been using the M26 recently, it's not too surprising when it comes to it. Oh, bit of a pain. But hopefully, they'll do something with it. I think in general, what needs around that BR is an AA for America. Anything else, added isn't really required at the moment, especially after the M109s and stuff. But yeah, it's just how it is. So we have House of Schmidt. With all the complaints about CAS, I'm really surprised Gaijin doesn't sell more premium SPAAs. Do you think this would make SPAs more common, help the balance of ground, or would they just not sell? They wouldn't sell, and also at the same time, it would limit them in the tech tree. So unless you did complete copies, but yeah, they just won't sell. Like you got the Zut, you got the Fong Kong, vehicles like that. Hey Splendium, nice to see you. No, he doesn't bark in the middle of the night. He sleeps on the bed, so he just kind of chills. He was fine. By when I finished streaming after we watched the movie, he was okay. He calmed down because I was paying him attention. So they wouldn't sell. Usually the people who are complaining about CAS are also the people who don't put any money into the game. The vast majority of people who play War Thunder don't put any money into the game or put very little amounts of money into the game. So if you just decide to sell a bunch of premium premium AAs, what you would end up with is that part of the player base, which is the majority one, kicking and screaming that those vehicles are not in the tech tree. So the only way you could do it is if you made it so those vehicles were in the They were copycats of the ones in the tech tree, and if you did that, then number one, people would say that you were lazy and that this is awful and yada yada yada. Number two, you would have people complaining that they have people in their games which only have AAs and nothing else. So, like, it's a non-starter. It's much better to just add them in the tech tree, and so people can grind them out to fill out their lineups. And then if they want to, add them as squadron vehicles or premium vehicles, which have limits on them, so therefore you can't bring them in unless you have at least another vehicle around the BR. Like that's how you would actually properly do it if you could, but I don't think you could do it like that. So, yeah, kind of a bad situation. There's not really a good answer for it. The main answer is just for people to play the game properly and have full lineups, and not just AAs, but also, fighters and everything else. But if you start saying stuff like that, you get some very angry people who start talking because you don't tell me how to play. Don't tell me what I need to do. And it's like, well, okay, you got a problem, and I'm trying to help you with. Shut up! It should be solved. Gaijin a crap. So, it's just a minefield, because the people who are usually massively complaining about these things, you can't really deal with them. Because when you go through solutions, you find out their only solution is just to ban things, which is not ever the solution for this stuff. So we have the Penman. Hello, Tech. Hope you're doing well. I'm trying. Recently, I've been trying to get the first MI-24 by playing ground, so I can also get the Battle Pass challenge done at the same time. The only reason I'm not playing heli battles for it is because I simply cannot be bothered using the MI4 as it's miserably slow. It is definitely a chunky. Let's go for these, actually. Screw it. Why not? There we go. But with me being absolutely awful in tanks and not even having rank 4 yet, I'm struggling. Yeah, that'll happen. Do you reckon there's a chance of making helicopters researchable by playing air like you can in tanks? Considering you can unlock them with rank 5 air, it would make some sense to do so. Also, a couple fun questions, because why not? What's your dream car, and what genre of music do you listen to? Yeah, I don't see why they... I thought they were going to make it so you could use aviation to grind out helicopters, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, I would be fine with that. I'd also be fine with, if you want to play Blue Water, you can grind out Coastal. If you want to grind out Blue Water with Coastal, you should be able to too. Like, I'm fine with all those things. I think it's important for people to kind of play what they want and not be forced to, play certain things because it's deemed correct or not. The only thing I could advise is obviously going to slightly low BRs for ground to grind out the helis if you want to. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy one. Stuff like that is never the easy thing to do, unfortunately. Favorite car? Favorite car is an Austin Healey. Austin Healey's are really cool. Big fan. Don't really talk too much about the cars that I enjoy, but because I see it as kind of like separate. It's more of like other hobby stuff. But yeah, the Austin Healey is beautiful. My father, when we were younger, he used to have like a bunch of like classic cars, and not like the standard ones, but just like weird ones that he'd picked up super cheap and put together. Like when we were younger, like he would buy like frames of stuff and then, like basically sort it all out from there. He was very masterful at mechanizing. I don't know how he did it, but yeah, because for me, like I enjoy that stuff a lot, but my hands are just like chunky as hell, so getting into like small areas is pretty much impossible. But yeah, it's I do enjoy Austin Healey's a lot. There's a lot of those types of cars that I'm very much into. And also, they do this like big British car show over here. Even though I'm in Canada, there's a lot of expats. So there's a metric ton of British people over here. So they all get together a lot of the time and kind of show off their cars, and it's really cool. I do enjoy it quite a lot. Genre of music is just massively how I'm feeling at that time. There isn't really a rhyme or a reason to it. It's just how is my brain feeling. Like I'll pretty much listen to anything. You know, rock, metal, concert music, pop, punk, rap. It's whatever. Like recently, I've been listening to 90s disco music. I've been listening to concerto music. And also, I've been listening to some Christmas music. And also a bit of Taylor Swift. Just because I'm trying to understand the phenomena. Because I don't get it. Hey, Salty Lemon, nice to see you. And I just kind of, I've read a ton of articles on it, and I've read a bunch of like different things on it, and I'm just trying to work out what is the hook. Because when I listen to music and I compare it to a bunch of others, it's exactly the same. So what's the... I suppose it's kind of like when I watch some streamers, or when I watch some like YouTubers, and I just think like, why them? Like like when you see like a crazy popular streamer, like what was the thing, what is their hook? You know, what is the thing that they do that people like? Because, you know, obviously for me it's not there. But that's just more kind of like a personal thing, right? So it's something that I do every so often. I think if you took away, if you asked me what genre I would want to listen to, like if you took away everything else, probably punk. You know, that's punk and rock are always favorites. Really enjoy Thin Lizzy, for example. I think Thin Lizzy is very good. The Ramones are always enjoyable to listen to because it's just noise. The Ramones kind of taught me that I don't need to listen to music for lyrics or for stuff like that. You can just listen to it as just a noise, and it can feel really nice. I've actually been listening to Muse as well recently, going back to some of the old British stuff, which is cool. Oh, but I think overall, there's a few other bands that I enjoy quite a lot. I just wish they were still alive. T-Rex is another one. Like I feel like going to a T-Rex concert would have been amazing. It would have been really cool, but unfortunately, in this reality, a lot of those guys are dead. So whether it was drugs or whether it was driving into trees, like it didn't end very well. But you can still enjoy the music, you know. But yeah, it really, the whole thing 100% depends on how I'm feeling at the time and nothing really else. It's kind of fascinating actually. I can just listen to anything, and I do regularly. I Was Made for Loving You was Kiss, yeah. Also, Love Gun, ooh, yeah, Kiss are good. Love Gun, ooh, I wanna love you, baby. Good old Gene Simmons. They're touring again, by the way. Guns N' Roses are fun too. There's a lot of good ones. So we have your boy Sphinx. Let's see. Hey Tech, love the stuff, so keep it up. I will do. We will continue to progress and have a bit of fun. I was wondering if you could go over some vehicles that were super strong or are still to this day that aren't Russian and Soviet. I usually only hear about Russian Soviet vehicles being overpowered, and was wondering if there was others that I've forgotten about. I think that's mainly just down to the community that you find yourselves in. Like if you hang out a lot in like the English speaking side of the community, you will never hear about overpowered American vehicles or overpowered British vehicles or anything like that, because there's a very big anti-Russian setup on it, and there has been for years. So it's just one of those things. Sure. The F-14, you literally couldn't touch the F-14 for like, how long was it? Like, I don't even know. Like 6 months, maybe even more. This is a tech talk, Brewhammer, but nice to see you. It's a podcast where we go through questions and stuff, so if you have one, it's well worth it. But yeah, the F-14 literally just took over the game. Hey, Dr. Froggle, nice to see you. When a lot of the high-tier MBTs came out, like, you know, the MBT-70, the KPZ-70, and the T-64, the MBT and the KPZ were insanely powerful compared to the T-64. Then, at the same time, you had, when the French came out, the Lorraine 40T was disgustingly broken. The EBRs were also disgustingly broken, two of them when they came out. There was also, let's see, so for Britain, the 6.7, like the Carnarvon, the Cent Mark III, those things were allowed to be at those BRs for the longest time. All completely busted. And now have literally gone up, like, how many BR brackets? Like 3? Just to kind of show you how nuts they were. The KV-1B for Germany, which I know is more Soviet, but yeah. The STRV-122, the A and the B when they came out, and still to this day they're very, very strong. Also, you have, let's see, you also have a few other things. Let's see, what's on the head? Pretty much the whole American Air Tech tree for the last 5 years is, if you go play jets, what you'll find a lot of the time is you will find America versus everybody else, because they're very powerful. You also have the CL-13 back in the day, was aggressively overpowered. It was insanely good compared to a lot of other things. The Tiger UHT for Germany, when, you know, they had the fire and forget stuff and nothing else really did. That was kind of nuts. In Sweden for a while had better Leopard 2s than Germany. Yeah, they still kind of do, depending on your opinion on it. Let's see. The ADATS, when it first came out, was just a destroyer of worlds. That one was kind of nuts. There's been several naval vehicles that have been overpowered. A lot of the premiums, not just stuff like the Eugenie or the Prinz Eugen. Stuff like the Helena has been overpowered since its launch. All of the destroyers that they added in were pay to win. The premium ones, when they decided to add those in. So all of those. What else? Right now, what's it called? The 3.3 American kind of minefield thing. The Candid's overpowered. So yeah, there's a ton of different ones. Type 90, when it was added, was insanely powerful. Genu 2 for the longest time as well. Like, every nation, maybe bar Israel, but even with Israel, like, with some of the Makavas are crazy powerful. Still are, but yeah, a lot of the Macavers actually got nerfed. Because they were absorbing a massive amount of shots, so a lot of them got put up in BR. I think I could point to every nation having some kind of overpowered thing at some point. China had the CW21. Sweden had not just the stuff we talked about, but also the J22s. The J22s were disgracefully broken. God damn, were those things busted. Then also, you had like a few other things that were there too. I literally can't fire my gun at this guy. How crazy is that? Because of the waves, bro. Sucks. But yeah, so you had those. Let's see. I'll try and go through each nation and think about like one vehicle that's overpowered or is overpowered now. So America F-14 candid without even thinking. Germany CL-13, the Puma for God's sake. Like when this was added at like 8.0 or 8.3 or whatever it was, disgusting. Soviet, we don't have to say any. You know what everybody says. Britain, Carnarvon, sent Mark III. Also, the Griffin Spitfires, Mark 22 and 24. Japan, Chino 2 for the longest time. Whole reproduction before the reverse nerf. M1 versus T64B or even MBT70 versus T64A. For China, CW21. Italy, R3, of course. R3 or the G55, the G55S or the G56, some of the most broken propeller aircraft in the game. France, EBR, Lorraine 40T, Mirage 3E, which is a sleeper. Sweden, J22s, STRV 122s, all those things. And yeah, as I said, Israel might be a bit of an odd one. You could probably go for one of the A4s, but they're kind of the same as America. I would go for like the Macava 2B when it first came out, or the Macava 2D. The 2D's actually gone up 2 BR brackets. Yeah, the Centauro as well, when you couldn't kill the damn thing when it came out. Yeah, B1 Terror as well. So every nation has had its vehicles, which you can point to as overpowered, or you can point to as things that have kind of taken over the game in some way or not. But it's just how often they're represented, right? And also how often people see them. So, for example, when like the French tech tree came out, the Lorraine 40T was insanely busted. To a point where it was disgusting. It was at 6.7, and it was at 6.7 and pretty much exactly the same as it is now. Just think about that. So yeah, but not a ton of people played the tech tree, and that's how it always goes with these nations. It's crazy, and then eventually they get changed, right? But crazy. Then we have Siorl Tech Guy. Hi. Hello to you too. Let's just do this. What are your thoughts on Korea being added as a tech tree or as a sub-tech tree to China and Japan with North Korea and South Korea respectively? I feel if added as sub-tech trees would help Japan, especially with its ground tree. Yeah, I think we've talked about it before. I don't want any more independent tech trees in the game. I'm sure they'll add them, like especially when you look at stuff like EVGA and things like that. But just as how my brain is right now and how much War Thunder I've played and gone through, I am very much in the camp of no more independent tech trees. So what I would do, South Korea to Japan, North Korea to China, no messing, no dodgy business. That'll do, Don't have to do anything crazy. That works. Just stick to it, And I hope they do that. It would be really nice if they did. I would like to see the Chon Maho. I would like to see a lot of other things in the game, especially like the K1s and the K1A2 and a lot of the AFEs slash IFEs the guys use, the South Koreans. But yeah, I'm not in any way interested in independent tech trees. I think I think right now we have so many tech trees that nobody already plays. Adding more is a mistake because people will still just not play them. Hey Teddy, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully life's treating you well. Well, I never actually thought personally the R3 was as broken as people thought it was. But I think the R3 was more annoying than anything else. But with a lot of changes they made to it, it became a much better AA platform, so people prefer it. Like, out of the overpowered vehicles, I feel like the Italian propeller ones were way more overpowered than the other ones. So we have Sean. But for PT boats, you could just make caps big enough that they spread into the water. Lowlands but deepish water should be doable map design wise. They already do that. Like, look at this map. But now it means that if you are like a destroyer, you have to either like force yourself into this area, or you know, you have a bit of a tough time. Hey Vanko, nice to see you. Like, pretty much all of the coastal maps are designed like this, by the way. They have like two caps which are more designed around coastal stuff, and then eventually, as the time goes on, the blue water stuff starts kind of moving in, and then yeah, the coastal stuff gets annihilated. So the idea is to get enough done in a coastal machine before the other guys get here, so you can get into a plane and then start donking on them, right? Think they'll finish up and drop the patch next week. I don't think it'll be next week. I think it'll be the week after. It depends on if they do a second dev server and if they add the stuff that's sat in the files or not. Because there's a lot of stuff sat in the files right now. So depends on how they feel about that stuff. Let's see. Why is the PT boat grind so bad? Because they split the tech trees because there was a lot of people who complained about playing the smaller machines because they just wanted to play the big boats. So that meant that somebody had to lose out, and who lost out was the coastal stuff. You can still grind them out, but yeah, it's they have the same setup now, so that's basically what happened. It's sad, but what you gonna do? Sometimes you have to screw Peter to pay Paul, I think is the general way that you say it. Yeah, dev server's already here. I'm playing on the live server now, right? At the moment. It's live server time. Try and get the auto pass thing done, and then also just to relax. But yeah, so, I mean, you have... What they really should do, thinking about, like, the system, like the naval system, is they should give people access or force people to kind of have one coastal ship and then, you know, one other... like, if they want to bring a bunch of blue water stuff, sure, but you have one coastal ship, so therefore you work on each map. But, I don't know. Hey, Will Parker, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. There we go. But yeah, it's a bit of an oddity. There's plenty of options, though. Hey, News Art, nice to see you. So we have Common Sense. Hello, Tech. Hi. My idea to fix overbearing casts is just to allow only 2 per side in the air at any given time. Thoughts? Cheers. I mean, it technically works, but then you just have a rat race to see who gets in the air the quickest. And then also, the other thing that it creates, which is more of a problem actually, is you get people who will team kill to get into the air. Which is another interesting thing. So, yeah, you'll just get... You don't want to try and create too much competition between your own teammates, and that's what this would do. And as we've talked about before, Gaijin tried doing the limitation things in many different events. So, for example, in the World War II Chronicles events, only a certain amount of people could spawn into certain types of vehicles. And even in World War mode, this happened. What ends up happening is the people who have really good PCs who load faster are able to do that stuff, or people with better connections are able to get access to those things where everybody else loses out. So you have the guys who already have the most natural advantages, you know, such as having a better PC and also having a better internet connection, now having the best vehicles too, while everybody else gets nothing. So it creates quite a bad environment for the have-nots compared to the haves, right? So it sucks. Fair enough, Will Parker. That sucks, man. We have had a lot of successes recently, though, so hopefully it can chime into yours as well. You'll get there, as you said. Just takes time, as always. There is a decent amount of stuff on offer. I'm sure you'll be fine. But yeah, so the basic thing is that you create controversy between teammates and you create a barrier between people to fight with each other to be able to get it, and also you just create an awful rat race and you annoy people at the same time. So does it fix the issue? Yes. But it's one of those where it's like, do you chop off, what is it? Do you chop off your head to spite your nose? Is that like the thing that they say? I can't remember what the thing is. But you know what I mean. Like, you get it. That's basically what doing that does. You are saying, you know what? Since I don't like this thing, nobody is allowed to use it. And that will not sit well with people. Because when you start actually limiting these things in that way, you awaken the monster that is the average player. Cut off your nose to spite your face. Yeah, that one. I think we're doing Lethal Company if Teddy and Donnie wants to do it. I think Alex might be in the countryside, so we could do it with Freeman if you guys are down. But so that's the only issue there. In the past, they've always been against trying to limit people through that stuff, and whenever they have done it in the past, it straight up just annoys people, and therefore I think they go away from it. There already is quite a few limits when it comes to spawns and spawn points and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like it's probably not best to anger people too much and forcing them to play certain things. So we have War Thunder cheat shaming. Oh well, there you go. Let's see. This reminds me of Vac Sucks. If you wanna go to a crazy place on the internet, just go to Vac Sucks. Vac Sucks is a subreddit which focuses on people cheating in Counter-Strike, and there it is. You can find some amazing opinions there about so many different things. It's well worth the reading. Right, there we go. Alright, let's see. Well, yeah, I mean, we'll probably play it in like 4 hours or so, so. Glad you adjusted cheating notion at 12:30. What's really crazy here is you can almost entirely eliminate the account share issue with HWID tracking or an anti-cheat that tracks behavior. As for what cheats are currently in the game, you're correct. It's aimbot and ESP that Gaijin has really slacked on adding EAC. But the main issue with the game currently, besides account sharing, is the lack of EAC updates or any anti-cheat update for that matter. The last update I can see for War Thunder in the game files is either mid-2022, 2020 or late 2022. Well, so like a year ago? The most recent update was August of this year. Oh, okay. Well, it's not that long ago. If Gaijin actually cared about game security instead of just random ban waves, they would update the anti-cheat more frequently, not once every 2 years like EOC shows. The last update I can see for War Thunder in the game files is either mid-2020 or late 2022. Are you basing it off like date modified? Because date modified doesn't tell you when something was added or taken away. For example, like, so just to give you an idea, okay? So on the War Thunder dev server, where is it? Where's my client? Because I noticed, I tried to do this the other day and it's very weird. So on the dev server, they added a bunch of new sounds, right? Like they added a ton of new sounds to the game for India, for Norway, and also the Chinese Betty and the Argentines, right? So they added all of those different things. If you have a look at when they were added, or at least when it says that they were added, they weren't actually added at that time, which is super odd and weird, right? So, for example, if you have a look at, let's see, so it's HI for Hindi. So the Hindi assets bank, the time when they were added to the dev server was, according to my files, was on the 20th of November 2023, which is not when they were actually added. They were added like 3 days ago. And I don't really understand why it says that. And it's one of those things that's always confused me about like these things, because surely it should just say when it was modified, but it doesn't. Because that file didn't exist before those days. But it probably got renamed from something else. So I don't know enough about that stuff, but I've always been a little bit all over the place with it. What is a HWID track? Let's see. HWID is a fingerprint of your hardware. Some components in your computer have their unique identifier. Oh, yeah, this doesn't work. So, I mean, I'm sure it works for some things, but at the same time, if you have a look at, what's it called? I really want to get this daily done, so let's just go shoot things down. So I remember, so Valorant, right? Remember Valorant? That game? Super fun and enjoyable. Nice to watch. A lot of pretty colors everywhere. Hey Mia, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. When they released, they talked about the fact that they'd been working for years on this anti-cheat, which had all of these crazy accesses on your computer, and basically they could just access everything that was there, tell everything exactly, you know, what's going on, and nobody would be able to beat this system, right? Nobody would be able to get past it and all of this different stuff, right? Oh, that sucks. And it was broken within a day. And you've even actually had Valorant, high-end Valorant guys, like, competitive guys who have been caught cheating, which, they shouldn't be able to cheat in the first place if all of this is true, what Valve have said, right? So the issue for me would be if that didn't exist, right? If you weren't able to spoof stuff and if you weren't able to change any of these things, I would be 100% on board. But if people are willing to cheat, they are going to do that stuff anyway. I was thinking about this the other day because when all that story came out about, the whole doxing stuff and them going after that guy when it came to the bug reports, of all things to like go after somebody over. But the thing I was thinking of is, well, what are the ramifications to people who do this stuff? And the ramifications are nothing, which is why people feel comfortable just completely doing heinous stuff like this. So I feel like no matter what type of controls you put in place, you're always going to find people who are going to do this, because the actual ramifications they can get is, oh, well, your account gets banned and you can just create another one straight away and try something else. So there's always going to be problems with cheating, and no matter what you put in place to try and improve it, you're still going to have issues. And the question has to be, which is the question that we always ask, not specifically with gaming, but every walk of life, how much of your liberty are you willing to give up in order to feel safe? And do you trust the people who you are giving your liberty up to keep you safe? They usually don't talk too much about these things, but stuff like the Patriot Act, for example, stuff like the amount of information that, certain programs give companies, and also the fact that there's been so many data leaks over the last few years when it comes to all this stuff. Riot Games literally had a full-blown data leak in like 2013, and they just didn't report it for 2 years. Meaning that a person had access to all your passwords, all of your information, not just your account information, but also your credit card information for they didn't have access to it for 2 full years, but the company, Riot Games, did not notify the general public that this had happened for 2 years. So that basically gave these people, or this individual person, free range to do whatever they wanted for that period of time with that information. And this happens a lot nowadays. It literally happened with Petro-Canada, e.g. Suncor, and a bunch of other, oil and gas guys in Canada recently, where people weren't allowed to use their cards at petrol stations because it was breached. So the question you have to ask yourself, as always, is how much are you personally, as an individual, willing to give up to feel safe? And for me, since, the game itself is not unplayable because of cheating, or isn't in a rough state in that way, or, I'm not hugely bothered about the thingy part of the game, I'm not hugely bothered about the competitive part of the game, and unfortunately I've seen a lot of them over the years, kind of break the rules anyway and not get punished. It's not something I really care enough about to, set it up in a way so I give up a bunch of my privacy, basically. And that's pretty much it. That's how I see this stuff. There we go. So yeah, it's all well and good, trying your best to keep something, as safe and protected as possible. But you've also just got to be careful about what you give up to do that. Especially since stuff can be circumvented. And we have like your Kudji. I'd like to see more MLRS systems, though, like the Type 75, as it can be used indirectly, but at great cost of sanity. However, I find MLRS systems to be a better fit in the game over artillery. I mean, they added the other Katusha, didn't they, with the bigger rockets? So, I feel like they're doing that. It would be cool if, it would be cool if they did a few other things, like the BM-21 Grad. I know there's a full model out there for the BM-21 Grad. I just don't know how well those things fit into the game, just as a thing. Because the main thing I think about with those things is it satisfying to get kills with them? Yeah, it is. It really is, actually. Like, you know, you turn around one day and you just bop, bop, bop. Hey, isn't that fun? And that's awesome. How do you feel like you're outplayed when you get bopped by a BM-21 Grad? Like, do you feel like somebody has, you know, like, do you feel like somebody has, you know, outplayed you, or have they worked really hard to get you when they've just spammed a bunch of rockets at you and you didn't see them? and one of them overpressures you. So that's like a conversation to have, but I'm sure we'll get more. Like, it's kind of a matter of time, right? That stuff like that happens. Hey, Gingerbread, nice to see you. America or Japan? I can not choose one of the premium Phantoms. The American one. So we have Insane Robert. I was like saying Robot, because I read it as a robot for some reason, but it's Robert. Hey TEC, what's your opinion on RRB and Simcast rewards, especially at top tier? My opinion, pillboxes, tanks and ships have very poor rewards compared to the low levels, which feels unfair since it's harder and harder to get any ground kills the higher RP, the higher you go. Due to the risk of being intercepted by aircraft with powerful radar and ion missiles, and you get forced to compete with others for bombing bases if you want decent RP. I know CAS was an issue in the past, especially in sim mode, where people use bots to grind planes and trees, but it seems unfair to punish the usual players for a few who try to exploit it. At the same time, the bot users are exploiting base bombing in air battles because of its ease of automating, and also, as there's something to exploit, some users will always find a way to do it. Yeah, that's true, but it's limiting that, right? At the end of the day, they made a bunch of decisions to try and limit. They're trying to do a few things, right? The issue that you have at high tier is pretty much every vehicle, apart from like the Soviet ones because of their limited ammo, but the ones that a lot of people play, which aren't Soviet, are able to just annihilate ground AI in air realistic. Like, I know you talk about pillboxes, but every single other target that's on the ground, if you have like a Vulcan, you can annihilate within like a split second. So if they made it so those things gave you good rewards, you know exactly what would happen. You wouldn't get strike aircraft going after those things. You would just get fighters going after those things, right? Because people already do that with stuff like the F4C. They hit a base with the bombs, and then they go hit ground targets with the Vulcan. So, you still want to promote people actually dogfighting and fighting each other instead of creating a PvE game, especially since PvE is already there. And it also has a double whammy of reducing the amount of people who bought the game. Ooh. But it does kind of suck that they are using rewards to a certain extent to try and balance the game. They've done it for years though, way before like the botting issues and all that. So it's not really a surprise that they're doing it. It just kind of sucks that they're doing it. I mean, that's kind of the way I see it, right? I would prefer if they didn't. I would prefer that, everything was equal across the board with that stuff, but I don't think it ever is going to be, just because of the fact that the amount of skill it takes to kill a player is usually a little bit higher than a stationary ground target. This might change once they add in more of the realistic AIs, which is something that they're doing over time. And it seems like they're doing a big expansion of them next year, which should be kind of cool. So, yeah, hopefully we see that, and hopefully that could change the way that people approach it. Sorry, it's been a long few days doing the dev server stuff. Goddamn. Then we have Austin Vaughn. Hello, long time viewer. Been watching you since you had 10k subs. A very much a long time viewer. Well, I'm glad you've enjoyed the ride. As a level 100 in War Thunder, who has over 100 vehicles from most countries, spending every one I play, mind you, I've recently been getting into top tier ground realistic for the first time. I've always been a player in Naval since it was added main, and finished multiple air and naval tech trees before, but never was able to get into ground. I've been playing ATO China tanks lately, and getting one-shotted a lot of the time from people far away I could never see coming. Despite being as careful as I can try, what would your advice be to someone who is a War Thunder veteran but inexperienced in ground realistic? You know how air realistic is all about working out where the nest is? Like where, or the bees around the honeypot? You know how there's specific areas on every map where people go to, kind of fight over? Whether it's over like ground targets or the center of the map, or even where people's airfields are positioned. They do, because a lot of people take off and just fly straight because they don't think. The same as with ground. There are areas of the map which are very much contested, and other ones which aren't. And since there's a lot of maps in the game right now, and a lot of them that change consistently, it can be incredibly hard to keep up with what's going on with them. But the way that you will get better at ground is through positioning, which is the same way people get better through aviation. So for me, when I look at something like that, if you already are, pretty well versed in the game, and you've already got to ATO China, so, you've already got through the majority of the tech tree, it's literally all about how you approach the battle itself and the maps itself. I wish I could do a set of tutorials on maps, and a lot of people have asked me to do tutorials on maps. Power positions, where to go, where to look for, sight lines, all of that. And I have done a few in the past, but I realized it's completely useless because, like, the vast majority of the maps get changed. So, for example, this year, I mean, they've added a bunch of new ones, which is all good. But how many have they changed? So there's 2 this update, and then there's like 5. There was like 5 last update, and then there was like 3 or 4 in the previous update. So if you like made videos on them, you're just constantly updating them, and it just seems like a lot of effort for stuff that's just going to change consistently, right? It's like doing like reviews of like tiers of vehicles. Like what ends up happening is you just have a setup where you have a look at it, and then you can't really do anything because then they bring in a research change, and then it changes a bunch of ranks of stuff and BRs of stuff. And so what you've just done is now outdated within like 3 months. And it sucks because I feel like that type of content is super useful, but it's also the one which, because the only people who would actually know what's getting changed or knowing what's moving around, the devs who are making the decisions, the content is hard to make. Like the other thing with it, which is kind of important, is the what's the word? Is also like what changes on maps is not necessarily just like the map itself, but also like the vehicles that you're using on top of it, right? So if you use specific vehicles on a map and then you decide to use specific other ones, it can completely change how you play a map and around the place. So there's just not an easy answer to it apart from experience, which is a terrible answer, which, you know, everybody will say. The way that ground functions is very different to the other game modes, which I feel like is probably why a lot of people enjoy it. And also arcade is completely different to the realistic game mode too, so you can't like use it as a way of I suppose like trying to train your brain to do other things. I'm not sure. I would probably go for that hit me. I would probably go and just play and gain experience as you go around. But it's just a really crap answer. I just don't know how else you do it. But just from a gameplay point of view, I don't know how you make it easier on yourself. Hey Juan, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing well, man. Hopefully life's good. Alright, so I'm a bit ill today. So we're doing the tech talk, but yeah, and unfortunately I've got a bit of a flu. So we have Tizagunner, high tech, with the implementation of discarding Sabo showing multiple projectiles. Let me just shoot at this guy. I'm just trying to get some crits for the daily while we just chill. There we go. The guy hit it. There you go. With the implementation of discarding Sabo, that multiple physical projectiles can be implemented, do you think it's possible for Gaijin to implement canister shot on various vehicles? For example, the Chaffee had a canister shot for it. Same with the 105mm guns of the US, and even up to modern cannons for around the world. Yeah, I did, Juan. I did. Well, right, so this goes into something we talked about before. Just because you can, does that mean you should? What is the point in adding a canister shell to vehicles? And also, understand that we already have some canister shells in the game. And they've had to actually change some of them more recently because of them being absolutely ass to use. If you don't know, the T-28, for example, you know, that vehicle, it had access to a canister shell. I don't know if it still does. They might have removed it. And the reason why they removed it was it didn't pen enough, and it was just a waste of time. It was even the stock shell for the longest time on the T-28, which made it impossible to grind. Yeah, this one here. It still is the stock shell. This one. The shrapnel shell. Complete waste of time and just there to annoy people. Like, why would you bother? Canister shells could be useful against helicopters. Yeah, I mean, if you have a look at the post, the thing he's talking about is a Chaffee. So Chaffies don't see helicopters. But yeah, so the only reason to add something like that is to basically make modifications cheaper for a vehicle. Because you'll have more modifications, therefore each modification will be decreased in RP. From a gameplay point of view, is it useful in any singular way? No, it's completely worthless. If you want to do more damage in that way to something, you use a HE shell, which all the vehicles mentioned already have. So there would be absolutely no reason to use a canister shell in any environment. You would either use APHE, APCBC, or just HE. And that's why a lot of vehicles don't have canister shells. They're worthless. There's a lot of shells which they could add to the game which would also be completely worthless. Such as dummy rounds. Why not just add dummy rounds? You know? Go and ask British pilots how they feel about ball rounds or practice shells in their belts for their Hispanos. It's not exactly fun. It's basically a waste of a shot. So if infantry existed, which it don't, then sure. But it don't. So don't. And we have Howard. Hi Tech, hope you're doing well. I mean, I'm doing okay. I'm just a bit ill. Have you noticed with the position of the autoloaders of top tier USSR MBTs are unreasonably high? The gunner's feet are even stuck in the autoloaders. The entire autoloader is almost hidden behind the strong upper plate and is made less vulnerable than it should be. When you look at the Chinese top tier MBTs with similar layouts, their autoloader positions are much lower. What's your opinion? I just don't like that Gaijin treats vehicles differently while denying they did so. Well, I think they're treating them differently because they're different vehicles. I know, like the whole meme about, Chinese vehicles and Russian vehicles being the same. They're not the same. They are actually different. They're especially the newer ones. They are manufactured by different sets of people. Like the Russian ones are made by the Russians, and the Chinese ones are made by the Chinese. They're not direct copies off each other. Especially over the last, 20, 30 years. Hey, Shuriyama, nice to see you. The other thing is, it depends on the Soviet loader, which is another thing. For example, there is a horizontal loader, and there is a vertical loader. And the vertical loader is sat pretty low, because if it wasn't, then the rounds would go straight through the crew, right? And then the horizontal loader is pretty much the same deal. I mean, it might be an issue, it might be a bug, it might be a problem. I haven't looked at the technical stats of the vehicles and the x-rays of them. I don't know how far the distance is between where the crew is and where the autoloader is. I would have to check out a lot of that stuff, so... For me, it's not a huge deal. I think what's more of a issue at the moment is the T90M coming in with access to certain ideas and stuff to basically make it a vehicle that's useful, which other vehicles should have access to and should have had access to for years, which, is a bit of an issue. Thank you for the subscription, Shirayama Samurai. Thank you for supporting the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. How about coloured smoke rounds? Yeah, sure, why not? The only issue with that is colour blindness, right? But you could technically change that. You could make it so you could turn it off. Summer is enough? Yeah, I like the name. It's nice to say. But yeah, the main thing is I would, if I thought it was wrong, I would bug report it. But I just don't know enough about it. I don't think it's a preferential treatment thing. Just think the vehicles are just made differently, When the smokes still work for colorblind people, when they aren't, to see something. Well, it's more about you could just screw with their vision when it comes to dealing with other stuff. Like, it would still obscure the thing, but it might obscure it in a different way compared to what you're used to, you know? Because, like, sometimes when it comes to color blindness, it's actually more about blending colors, right? So, if you have, like, two colors together, one can blend into the other one, and you can't tell which one is which. That's why, like, when you're small and they show you those cards, you have to read the numbers, right? Because the colors are blending into each other. So we have the next one from Lubdub. Hi, Tech. Do you have any advice on how to play naval vessels without stabilized guns for the Coastal Aggressor Challenge? I was trying to use the Soviet PR-1124 late and 191 specifically so that I could spade them as I completed the challenge. These boats have 76 and 85s as main armaments. Yeah, I was just using them. Respectively, which rock up and down as the boat pitches. When aiming, the distance indicator will fluctuate between 0.15 and 4 kilometers as I bounce across the water and fail to hit even a large target. I struggled with these vehicles in both arcade and realistic. Ultimately, I gave up and used the SKR-7, with which I completed the challenge in about 4 matches. I mean, basically what you gotta do, which sucks, by the way, is you have to just stay stationary, and even when you stay stationary, it doesn't always work, because you still go all over the place. What you need to do is you need to go back in time, and you need to get a baseball bat, and you need to hit up all of the guys who wanted rockier seas, and make sure that they're not allowed to breed, and also make sure that they're not allowed to have a say. Because when War Thunder Naval was starting, there was this... Well, to be honest, they haven't gone anywhere. They're still around the place. But there was this set of people who were so annoying. And this is a problem that Naval has, actually. So there is a set of people who talk about Naval but don't play Naval. This happens in all different game modes, but it mainly happens in Naval. What I call these people are assholes, because what they do is they make decisions based around realistic situations and what they think would look cool, while also not ever experiencing the way that Naval actually works, right? So, for example, they will say stuff like, wouldn't it be cool if there was huge waves in Naval? Wouldn't it be really cool if, you know, this happened or that happened? No, it actually wouldn't be interesting if any of those things happened, right? Because you are seeing the side effects of making waves go all over the place. What you have is a situation where smaller machines just can't do anything. I was playing the PR-123K, I think it is. The one with the KPVTs on the back, the hydrofoil for the Russians. I was playing it the other day to do one of the Battle Pass challenges, the air kill, ground kill, or air kill, naval kill, and cap. And my guns could not fire straight because of the bounciness of the waves. And that is a direct result of people giving opinions on stuff that they don't play because they think it looks cool. And it is a complete and utter problem, and has been for the history of War Thunder, and will continue to be a problem, which is why a lot of the time when you look at opinions from people online, especially when it comes to War Thunder, you got to be super careful, because there are just a set of people who will turn around and just go, yeah, but I just want it to look cool, and not take into account the gameplay element at all. Like, that's... I have met so many people who want stuff like, what do you call it? They want stuff like the artillery stuff in the game. You know, they want the top-down artillery stuff because they think it's cool and realistic. And all I just want to do is just take a baseball bat and teach them what a home run is, using their head as the ball. Like, it's so infuriating. And in Naval, for some reason, it's just enhanced by 100%. The amount of people who just say stuff like, "Oh, well, I would play if this was a factor," or "Oh, wouldn't it be really cool playing Naval in a storm?" No, it wouldn't. Or when people go like, "Oh, well, we should have night battles in air." No, we tried that. It's awful. Just go away. You know, go live under the stairs for a bit. You know, go cosplay as Harry Potter and leave the world alone. The opinions aren't needed. And unfortunately, it just happens a lot. So, and as everything in War Thunder, if you change a factor, right? If you change a factor in the game, it will have unseen consequences, as it always does. And then you will find the people who exploit those things, and it's all over the place. So yeah. How about naval battles where the entire screen's totally grey? Yeah, exactly. How about a naval battle where you're just stuck in the bridge? I saw that one time. So you cosplay as like as the commander of the ship. How about that? Does that sound fun? Yeah, it sounds great, doesn't it? Literally just stand there and watch things happen, you know? Yeah, the night battles in RRB were horrific. They were really bad. Like, I still have horrors on Norway. I still remember Norway when, like, you had those night battles. Because you know what used to happen every time on Norway in a night battle? Right? This would happen without fail every single time. Okay? So first thing that would happen. Everybody would climb towards the bases at the port. Right? Because they knew the bombers were going that way. Okay? So that's number one. So then you would have an engagement there. You would follow the lights of where the bases were shooting. Because if you didn't, you had no idea where anybody was. One person would get spotted, either by the recon aircraft that were around the place, okay? Or by just randomly, and then everybody would furball to that individual. Okay? And then you would have this big fight where nobody could see anybody, nobody knew what was going on, okay? And then you would have one or two people who would have not got involved in that, would have gone somewhere else, like the other bases, and just disappeared. And then you would never be able to find them in a 50-minute game. So you were just sat there having to hit naval targets, hoping that somebody just wouldn't appear from the ether because you were being spotted by the AI and they weren't. That was what the night battle was like on Norway. Right? So yeah, you've got to be really firm with certain ideas when it comes to War Thunder. You do have to just turn around and just go, no, thank you. Because otherwise you create very negative experiences for people. And a lot of these ideas have been tried. So we have like actual times in War Thunder's history that you can point to where it's like, hey, we should try this. It was tried here. It didn't work. Oh, well, what about this? It was tried here. It didn't work. I spent many years in War Thunder trying all of these different things to try and get an idea of what would work and what wouldn't in terms of the ideas that people spew. Because a lot of the ideas people spew nowadays are exactly the same ideas from 5 years ago. Which, I've got to be brutally honest with you, is mind-numbing on my part. But it's something that has to be done because the only other thing you hear is placation. Oh yeah, maybe that could work. Yeah, oh, maybe they should try it. Or, you know, you just won't get a response. I'm trying right now to spade Tier 3 Soviet coastal vessels, and I'd like to hit them with a baseball bat, as those damn bouncing waves are killing me. Yeah, you just can't aim anymore. It's been like that for years now. It's crazy. Back then, the ideas were stupid, now they're innovative. Yeah, because the game's different now, bro. Did you know that? So now they might work. No. No, they're still bad ideas. No matter how no matter how no matter how many changes you make to the game, no matter how many radar systems, RWRs you add, missiles or anything, fighting in a night battle over Norway will never be fun. You know. So yeah. Bad ideas have to be fought. And luckily over the years, there's been a lot less of people throwing them around. So then we have Armored Avocado. Hey Tech, I've been playing War Thunder. Oh, hello, by the way. I've been playing War Thunder on and off for a long time and consistently for 4 years now. In the progress, I've accumulated a substantial amount of convertible XP. My idea is to use this convertible XP to research rare vehicles that have been taken out of tech trees, such as Tiger II 105, Panther II, or even Italian aircraft that once a German tech tree. This XP could be used for research, maybe 100 to 1 exchange or even more, or maybe even have a separate XP pool for each tech tree where the pool is only used for rare vehicles. Since the convertible XP does not really have a use besides researching vehicles for Golden Eagles. I don't believe that players who have been here for a while should only have to access them. This could also be implemented now because the reasons they removed, for example, the Panther II are not really valid, such as the Japanese jets and even the M1 KVT, since they never existed. I mean, you've basically right there just read back a video that I made about 3 months ago. See if I can find it. Because, yeah, I outlined this exact idea like 3 months ago. The idea of using Convertible RP for other things. Let's see. Did they get rid of the search function on YouTube? No, it's just hidden for some reason. Oh, was it 5 months ago? Might have been 5 months ago. What do I think the F2 coming to War Thunder? It'll come. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Hello. Yeah, there you go. There's the link to the video. I'll talk about it in the second half. But yeah, it's obviously I think it's a good idea. Without saying. I think in general I have a ridiculous amount of convertible RP right now, and you know, I don't use it for anything. I think that everybody should get access to all vehicles that are there, and they should continue to do that stuff. I don't think that anything should be limited from people, especially on console, since they just didn't get access to a bunch of stuff back in the day. And I'm hoping in the new year there'll be a new system which addresses this. If we think about this year, they did a fantastic job addressing a lot of issues that people had when it came to the game. It was actually quite a good year for change, like, you know, positive changes, whether it's like just recently the search function for the service record, or the research changes, or, you know, all these different things. It's very nice to see that they've worked incredibly hard at, you know, trying to listen to people and also kind of give them what they want, you know. So I'm all down with that. It's nice to see. Good evening, Conspirod. Nice to see you. But yeah, the F2 will definitely come. The only question is when, not if, as usual. I won't be surprised if it doesn't come next year. We're already basically there at the end of the day. There we go. Bonk. So we have Frulfluberg. It's a cool name. Do I think it depends on the AIM-120 or the radar? Well, it's the radar, isn't it? Because they've added a bunch of vehicles already that could carry AIM-120s but don't. So yeah, it's more about the fact that its radar is way more powerful than pretty much anything in the game. It's a very good vehicle, that one. So it'll come eventually. The Tiger? Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's in a bit of an odd place. When hearing about the Nigerian tree, I was more thinking of a South African tree and just have a conglomerate of African nations, maybe if they are that special. But the South Africa tree can at least have more unique trees and also just start like late like Israel. Also talking about taking away stuff, which people have bought the old CV105, but have gotten either both or got a modification to change it. I really miss the old one. Yeah, that's fair. The old one was pretty good. The new one's pretty good too, but it's a higher BI, you know? No, once again, like, just stop trying to make independent tech trees work. They don't work anymore. See, you've angered AJ. But no, it's... How about instead of doing some weird, screwed up idea of a African tech tree, why not just take all of those individual nations, which all basically use vehicles from the separate nations, and just add them to the nations where those vehicles are from? Like, why not just do that at the end of the day? Thank you for the raid, Bargle. That's very kind of you. Like, wouldn't that make more sense? There's no need for all of these artificial ideas to be pushed in. They're simple. It's as simple as this, okay? So before, right, take away any national biases or anything to do with that. Just put that over there. You just have one question to answer. If you already have 10 nations in the game, and like 90 to 95% of people only play 3, there you go, 3 of them, how are you going to convince any of them to play a 4th? When that tech tree is going to be filled with a bunch of vehicles from these 3. That's the only question. And also remember that the countries you're trying to incorporate are, first of all, not huge on population and aren't hugely represented when it comes to the War Thunder player base. Right? So if you can work out like a presentation or something that answers that question before we even like move on to the next stuff, then we can start, you know, going through the ideas of independent tech trees. So not even like if there are enough vehicles, not even if you could competently make lineups, or not even if you could, you know, set up like very different variations and all of this stuff. Just forget about all of that. Just tell me about how to get people to play it. Since we already have the vast majority of the player base who don't play anything else apart from a very small amount of nations. You think 90% for 3 tech trees isn't true, but I get the point. I mean, there's... You can ask Ron Voyney, the guy who works for Gaijin, who talks about these things. You can ask why all of their decisions are based around 3 nations and not anything else. Exclamation mark controls, Buddy Spike. So yeah, it's pretty much the fact that you already hardly see any other nations. So for example, this one, right? Russia, Israel, Sweden, Russia, Israel, Germany, Russia, China, Russia, Germany, Sweden, and then Russia, right? So predominantly Russia, but there are other things. What do you think this side is? So we got T2, America, T2, America, 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 and America. So we have 2 T2s, and all the rest are America. Oh, use mouse, Buddy Spike. You don't need a full HOTAS. You can use one if you want. Oh, and America. So you work out which ones are played more. Even in this game, it's like 80 to 90% 3 nations. But yeah, unless you're like gonna go heavy into the simulator stuff in War Thunder, you should just do mouse and keyboard. Hey Game Hike, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. So yeah. It's just the simple fact that there's just like they're adding in things to try and not force people to play other stuff, but make it easier to with that like research setup. You know, like where if you have researched like specific vehicles and specific tech trees, they're gonna make it so they're gonna make it so you are, you know, you can research at higher efficiency in another nation. But yeah, it's right now that's like what the game is. Hey Game Hank, nice to see you. The thing is, Buddy Spike, at the end of the day, you should give a go at everything, but I would honestly say to start off with mouse and keyboard, and then if you're playing, like, as I said, simulator or whatever, you can crack out the HOTAS, but it's whatever you're comfortable with. You know, give everything a go. You think top tier differs also from low BR at 5-0, you face 5 zeros? I mean, maybe. That's still 4 nations out of 10. Let's say that 5 nations out of the 10 are, let's say, 90%, okay? So take away from the 3, the 3, and let's just say it's 5. So that's still only 50% of the game. Right? So 50% of the game, less than 10% of the people even play. Right? Very true, Donny B. It's time. Well, let's have a look at this match, right? Russia, 2 German-American vehicles. China, Germany, Russia, Germany, Russia. Yeah, of course we'll Parker. So in this team, there are 2 Chinese vehicles out of, what, 16? Or however many it is. Crazy. Like, it's nuts. So you just have to work out for me how that works, right? There we go. You know what's funny about this? So, at the time that this was posted, by the way, Will Parker, the least played nation was Italy. And it is actually 4th on the list above the UK. Which shows how overrepresented it is when it comes to social media. But even there, like, basically, you know, doing that. Let's see. Where does he get the information from? Oh, never mind. He uses Thunder Skill. Throw it out. It's crap. Thunder Skill doesn't even have naval on it. Or, like, helicopters or anything. It's a waste of time, that one. That's sad. Would have been kind of cool to read about. Fuck. But yeah, so instead of looking at it from a point of view of, well, even a ground analysis, it completely, like, even in 2020, it was outdated by 5 years. Like, it just doesn't, yeah, like, I'll show you. 2020, like, Israel was in the game, wasn't it? Like, if you have a look at the nations on Thunderskill, it doesn't even have Israel as a nation. Yeah, look. It has Russia, America, Japan, Italy, Germany, France, and Britain. The last time it was updated was when France was added. Jesus. That's crazy. Just think about that. But anyway, yeah. The point is justifications need to be made for adding these as independents around how, like, I would just need to see some kind of basis for, instead of I would like it to happen because I'm from there, or I would like it to happen because it seems cool. Like, we talked about this, you know, like 20-30 minutes ago. Those types of ideas as a starter idea is not bad, but they need to be way more fleshed out than that. You can't make business decisions around, I think this will be cool. I know a lot of people look at, like, people like Elon Musk and think that's all he does. And sometimes it definitely seems like that's all he does, but he doesn't. Right. Luckily, he can come up with ideas and then work out how to sell them later on. Why did my wheel fall off? You're saying the promise of the T-55 M6 isn't enough? Well, you know what would have been cool for Nigeria? The VT4, but it's going in the Chinese tech tree, so sad. So we have Louis Craft. As there always must be that one person to ask about it. Do you think that we may see a Polish subtree in the future? With a nice lineup to 2.7, some vehicles at 4.367, and a shit ton of interesting vehicles from 7.3 onward. Whereas the Panzerbits 2000 has an issue of only being one version, the Crab, and two of the different ones, for example, with different guns and chassis. Yeah, sure, why not? I think it makes more sense for squadron vehicles, event vehicles, and premiums, but of course you could make it a sub-tech tree. The issue with Poland as a nation in War Thunder is they import a lot of different things from different areas, so it's kind of hard to work out where you would want it or what tech tree you'd want to add it in. This adds me to think that it should be given to a nation that is struggling or just doesn't have a lot to it. So something like France, right? But then you get a lot of people annoyed because it doesn't make a lot of sense in France. But that to me is how you gotta look at these topics. So can it come in? Yes. Will it come in? Yeah. For Poland, they're favoured doing event vehicles and squadron vehicles, so I don't see why they would change that now. And also, you have the question of where do you put it, which is it's a valid question. It really is. You know, my PT-91 is completely homegrown. Yeah. But no, it's interesting to think about. But I hope we see a kind of an explosion of different nations. We already see from the crew voice lines that's what they're doing. You know, the fact that they're making whole sets of voice lines just for a singular vehicle might be worth, you know, having to think about why they're doing that. Maybe they won't be a single vehicle for too long. Kind of cool, right? Then we have Jerry. Good old Jerry. What War Thunder update trailer is your favorite out of all of them so far? Also, what is your favorite ground map? New Power always kind of sits there as a really good one. It was the first of a new breed, which is always entertaining. You know, it was the first time where they did like full on proper trailers like groundbreaking was also quite fun. I just like the trailers where they show off a bunch of different vehicles. Like the most recent one, Superiority. Superiority is a terrible name for an update, especially when you add in rank 8 ground vehicles. But as long as the trailer has a bunch of different vehicles in it, like the Vigan one was quite nice. The Vigan one was probably the best cinematic one for me. But yeah, any trailer that shows off a ton of stuff is pretty cool. What about Sergei? I just don't care. Is he dead? Is he alive? Who cares? He's a fictional character in a video game. Do we need to do a deep dive on War Thunder lore again? Like we rewatched that A10 trailer before we went into the sneak peeks on stream. Wow, is that bad? It is so bad. It's also one of the least viewed trailers, even though it's about the A10. Funnily enough. But yeah, so New Power for me, very good. I would also go for Groundbreaking. Either of those are really nice. That was quite nice. Sergey got mentioned on the last trailer. He did, yeah. It was cool to see the guy come voicing it. Troy Baker. Always would like to see some kind of unique voice lines in the game from people. Maybe we could get him as a commander. That's one of the things that World of Tanks has always had over War Thunder. Always. And I'm very surprised it's never been changed. Like the fact in World of Tanks you can have a lot more personalization when it comes to your crews or when it comes to like your general vehicles. It amazes me with the fact that that isn't true in War Thunder. Like there's no avatars, you know. The fact that the guy who's the Vinnie Jones, the fact that Vinnie Jones just got added to World of Tanks is just nuts. Like, and they did like this whole like trailer around him. You know, he had like a chieftain tank. He was playing the aggressor for Santa Claus because it was the winter event. If you haven't seen that one, by the way, it is so good, insanely good production. Yeah, you should definitely go watch that. Because that to me, when I look at that, I go, okay, why isn't Gaijin doing stuff like that? You know, I would love to see stuff like that. Thank you for the subscription, Crippy D. Thank you for supporting the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Been enjoying the YouTube vids, making me excited for the upcoming update. There's a lot of cool stuff, man. And I've also made some little videos on some slight additions, which are really fun. So yeah, there's a lot to this update, and it's really nice to see, you know. It's been really good. I can't do that right now, Saladex, because we're doing the tech talk. But Yeah, I'll give you your points back. So then, favorite ground map. Right now, my favorite ground map. I don't know. Probably Seversk. I like the fact that Seversk can play. I can play any area of Seversk and feel like I have control and can, go after any other area. I'll be right back, by the way. Just give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Just wanted to get a fizzy drink, some Diet Pepsi. Whoop. Just tossing my throne around as you do. But there you go. Ooh. Yeah. Usually I can sit down for many hours and just chat my face off, but since I'm a little bit under the weather, it's not easy. There we go. Hello. Right. Calculate the power sample size would need for your tech. Would need data from 383 players to determine the incidence of playing a specific nation at 20% incidence. I like the word. Incidence is pretty cool. Haven't used that in a long time. I like it. The difference between World of Tanks and War Thunder. 6 fun tanks for just having an account. Grind over 2 weeks non-stop across 4 game modes and 4 vehicles. Yeah, okay. Well, the tanks is actually pay to win. And also has a metric ton of loot boxes in it, where you can only get specific vehicles through them when it comes to these winter events. So, I don't know, man. I feel like looking at them both in contrast, I much prefer War Thunder's model. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of doing it like every year, Sneaky. Like tier list for this year, tier list for next year. I think that'll be quite good. Right, so, yeah, favorite ground map is probably Seversk right now, just because, as I said, I feel like I can play it in different ways, which a lot of the maps, I feel like I can't, but that's probably more of a personal issue. I grinded the live, so I can use the YAS when it comes for the UK. Will my account update when the second dev is released? Yeah, it should do if there is a second dev, because it just copies your profile from your live account. So yeah, it will. So we have Polish 204-3. Domi arigato, Mr. Roboto. Da, 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 da. Greeting, fellow sufferer. I hope you had a splendid week. Yes, I did actually. Hope you had one too. I'll just get straight to it. What do you think the actual American Harrier 2 will be like? Or 2 Plus? Or just 2? Maybe it could be added in the December update, seeing that they need continuation of the A7 line, and it can carry the much-awaited AMRAAM. The Plus is my favourite jet of all time, so it seems very annoying to see them not getting their own jet. Is the one that is in the Italian tree that? Is it? Because in the Italian tree you have the AVA B Plus, don't you? Or the Harrier 2 or something? Wouldn't it just be the same as that? So yeah. I think the reason why they haven't added it to the US is because at the moment the US doesn't need it, and also because the Italians have it, and for the longest time, one of the issues that was in the game and talked about was the fact that Italy didn't really have anything that was unique at the high echelon, and also didn't have anything that was good. You know, they were stuck on the F-104S when other people had F-14s and things like that. So I think I would be very surprised if they made it, or if they put the vehicle in the American tree anytime soon, because just like you have stuff like the F-86K, for example, where you don't have a American version of it, if they just put all these vehicles still in the American tree alongside, you know, all of the others, then there's no reason for people to play the other tech trees. So I think that's probably why, right? I don't think they're waiting for the AMRAAM. There are already vehicles in the American tech tree that can hold the AMRAAM, which has to be said. I think it is more just about the fact that they want Italy to have something special. They want Italy to have something in the game which is unique and for people to grind towards. Because otherwise, once again, why bother playing them? Why not just play America? And unfortunately, if that, you know, becomes the thing and everybody just plays America or Russia, it gets kind of boring. And I speak, unfortunately, from experience on that part, because that's how it's been for quite a long time. Right. And then we have, I like your Kutji again. That's it. The tech army should mobilize and get you a model. Oh yeah, because we talked about putting together models and stuff, right? Nah, I mean I'll do it myself, man. Like it's all good. Like to be honest with you, there's a bunch of stuff I want to try next year. I have in my head like the different things that I want to do. Like I've been planning it for like a month already, because I like to set up like January as kind of a okay, so we did all this last year, it went really well. How can we maximize the stuff that we do and then also do more things, right? And so that would be part of the do more things category. And I have some ideas. I've been thinking about how to do the model stuff. We could maybe set certain goals, but the goals won't be based around money or anything like that. They'll be based around other factors like I don't know, amount of comments or maybe views for the month or something. Like, I don't know, if we crack like 1 million views or something, then I could put together a model, you know, something like that. Have I bought any of the LOTR holiday packs? Which ones, Rocker? Which ones are those? Do you mean the ones that were released in November? If it's the ones in November, then yes, I bought them all. Unless it's different ones. But yeah, I you know, after talking, yeah, I bought them, Rocker. I have them next to me actually. I got the jump starters, the unique, the collectors ones with the unique art. I haven't opened any of them yet, and then also I have like the easel ones too. They're all just signed boxes next to me. Still working out what to do with them. But no, I honestly think when it comes to the model stuff, it's something I will do in the future. I just want to work out if I actually want to do it as like a community thing, or just as a personal thing. And also, once again, financial stuff. Just trying to, if it's part of the budget in the next year, then it's part of the budget. Luckily, right now, when it comes to the PC, touch wood, it's been running very well over the last period. And I do have my backup PC all ready to go, so hopefully we won't have to make any more investments in that for a while. And that means we can maybe invest in other areas, which would be good. So we have Alexander Walker with a beautiful profile pic. Everybody loves Shrek. Fun times. Hi Tech, hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm doing alright. Life is okay. In relation to the Nigeria topic, why doesn't Gaijin make some tech tree groups as nations rather than individual countries? I.e. Swedish tech tree turned into Scandinavia, adding Norway. Israel could be turned into the Middle East by adding Iran, Iraq, and even Egypt. An Australian tech tree with Indonesia and New Zealand. I get that this would take time, but it would allow for more vehicles in both air and ground. Anyway, I think you get the idea. They're already doing that. They're just not naming it that. So, for example, the British tech tree has Australia in it. It has, you know, Canada in it. It has a lot of these different nations. So I think there will be one point where they just turn around and rename it. The Israel one, especially right now, I understand. Once again, I understand that Gaijin is an apolitical country, but at the same time, I think maybe with a, you know, we use a bit of tact here and realize it's probably not the best idea to label that tree the Middle East tree right now. Same with like adding like Ukraine as a subtree to Russia, right? I think we can all agree it's probably, you know, it's probably not the best idea from a company point of view, right? But no, they could definitely do that stuff. It's always funny because so when people bring up Scandinavia, which is the country that isn't in Scandinavia but is in that area up there? Which one is it? There's one of them that isn't, and I always find it funny. Because people say like Scandinavia, but it's actually more Northern Europe. It might be like Denmark or something like that. But yeah, so I think eventually, as we go into the future, you know, 10 years time in War Thunder, is it Finland? Finland's not part of Scandinavia. It's one of them. I know that. I think as we go into the future in War Thunder, that's what will happen. Nation states will cease to exist in War Thunder. And you will get conglomerations, you know? So basically that will happen, right? So Britain will become Commonwealth. You know, Sweden will become Nordic or Northern European. Germany will become, you know, Germany will become like the Belgium and then Dutch. It'll be like Germania or Germanic, right? Or what was that? What was it called in Iron Harvest? We should use those. We should use Iron Harvest ones. Let's see. What were the Iron Harvest nations called? Because I really enjoyed their names. Let's see. Yeah, Polania. So Polania can be USSR. Oh no, sorry. Polania can be Japan. Saxonian. There we go. Saxonian could be Germany. Rusviet, obviously USSR. American Union of Usonia. That can be USA. Arabia can be everybody else. Fenris can be the Nordic boys, and then the factory can be Italy, since they didn't build any during the Second World War. So, you know, like I think that's what happens at the end of the day. We start, instead of getting countries, we get areas, right? And whether they name them that, or whether they, you know, kind of name them something else. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. Just because of, if you just think about, War Thunder in general, that's the way it's going. It's going to a point where you have more of that stuff going on. Let's see. So Scandinavia is Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So yeah, Finland isn't part of Scandinavia. Nordic territories that are not part of Scandinavia: Svalbard, Jan Mayen, Greenland, and Bouvet Island. So there you go. 899699791. I'm doing good, man. Feeling good. Just got the flu, but doing all right. So yeah, I do think that's what happens. Probably not the way that we see it. They'll probably name them something else, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Then we have Aldo Caruli. Hello, Tech in chat. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, doing okay, I think. Just getting the battle pass thing done. Dailies are done, so we're just chilling. Today I don't want to sound like a party pooper, but I'm extremely let down by the rank 8 changes, rank 7 changes, and I'll explain you why, hoping that you'll correct me on something I'm missing since I don't really see any upsides. Well, I'm not very good at that. I'm better at blunt reality than hope, if we're honest. With the introduction of rank 8, a lot of previous rank 7 vehicles have been moved up, thus making their research effectively harder. A high number of premiums now cannot even research vehicles they could research in the past, and some people like me stupidly put talismans on some tanks I enjoyed to be able to speed up the research in the last rank. I know the game isn't about the grind, but there are some people like me that enjoy completing trees and planning the research for future things. This aside, now some vehicles that topped at 390 now cost 410k, including SPAAs, and some of them even 430. Yeah, pretty much. I feel like people are too hyped about the things that are coming in the game without looking at the drawbacks. For what are literally 6 tanks, the RP requirements, without counting the new vehicles, have been topped off by a staggering 500,000, half a million RP. And you cannot even tackle these with half of the premium and eventually talisman you previously bought. At the same times, most 8 out of the 11 of the pack vehicles discounted in the last November sale can no longer research 28 rank 7 vehicles that will be moved up. It seems like a sleazy and scummy move if you ask me. What do you think about it? Thank you for your time and keep up the good work. Well, I've always been very frank with people when it comes to these changes, right? The only reason to change, the only reason why they add a new rank in is so they can sell new premiums, and also at the same time to make the tech tree harder to grind. In an ideal world, in War Thunder, the best thing would be if ranks did not exist. I know during like the progression changes in the middle of the year, they tried to talk about the fact that ranks were, part of research because they use them as barriers when it comes to BRs and all of this, but all of that is artificial. Every single one of those rules is completely arbitrary and can be changed on a fly by Gaijin themselves, and they use it as justifications to do things, when if you actually have a look at what is being done, it is even different sometimes to what they're saying, right? So, overall, ranks are negative, right? They're a negative thing in the game. There is no reason why you would want ranks if you are in favor of people researching the game and having fun through researching the game. So yeah, when they add in a new rank, usually people get more interested in people get interested in the new vehicles coming in because they see it as a next step, and isn't that really cool? But at the same time, all of these vehicles could be added in without a new rank being added. And also at the same time, we've seen some pretty large negatives more recently with ranks being added, because basically it means that they end up selling very high BR premiums, which is something that absolutely nukes the matchmaker at high tier and makes it a lot harder to play. M1A1, Challenger 2 OES, so on and so forth with the other ones that will come into. So, for me, personally, I am always against new ranks coming in, because all of the other content can come in without a new rank being established. A new rank just means harder research for the individual. There is no benefits to having more ranks. Absolutely none. It is just a hype magnet. And anybody who tells you differently is straight up lying to your face. Or they'll say something like, or like a Gaijin employee will say something like, well, we have plans for the idea of expanding this rank, so therefore it has to exist. No, it doesn't. You could just expand the one below it. It's all good. Like, it's as simple as that. It's an arbitrary how do I say that word? Arbitrary wall that they can move around whenever they feel like it. Right? So that's just how it is. I should have used a different word. Arbitrary. It's a toughie, that one. God, you won't believe I went to school sometimes. I never do, yeah. Wilma! What a great set of films, by the way. With good old, whatever his name was in it. Was it Mr. Freeman? But yeah. And they are just negatives when they bring them in. There are only two technical positives if you want to put them at. And there's one that Redned said, which is very fair, which is like they don't want people just gun barreling down like one line of the tech tree. They want people to have like, variety and stuff, and also at the same time to have full lineups, right? So you can see that as a positive, but the issue is people don't do that. If they're of that mindset anyway, they just buy a premium and then just play a single vehicle anyway to grind through things. And then the other thing is obviously you have to gain more experience before you get to the top tier of the game, which is a awful kind of thought, because then you just have a question of scale. Like, how much do you want people to have to play before they get to that point? Like, if you want it to be longer, where do you put the line, right? And you are only literally doing it because you don't want other people playing what you see as a sacred part of the game, because you get to play it and nobody else. It's really horrific gatekeeping. So then we have Savian Smith. Hey, how you doing? Tech? Doing okay. Just nasally. I'm a fairly new player, just wondering if you have any tips for grinding Russian tech tree. I'm ranked 6 in both air and ground. Well, I feel like you're already... If you're at rank 6 out of 8, you're already pretty well up there, aren't you? You're doing pretty good. I mean, the basic things, if you go to the beginner's guides, the playlist on the YouTube channel, I have a video about grinding tips and how I personally approach it, and how what has worked for me for many years, and I've been able to sit, comfortably when it comes to SL and comfortably when it comes to RP. And usually it's, form proper lineups, especially in ground. If you do air realistic, that doesn't matter as much. But if you do ground, you need those aircraft to come along with you. SPAAs, SPGs, mediums, lights, heavies, whatever it is. You need at least like 2 or 3 vehicles at a lineup, which are similar in BR. Also, at the same time, what you need is to grind dailies and specials to try and kind of push yourself around instead of just playing the same thing over and over again, so you get bored, which happens quite a lot. Focus on battle passes, focus on events, focus on things which are different from just grinding the actual tech tree. Try and trick your mind in focusing on other stuff so you don't get bored. Like, that's one of the big things for grinding in general. Don't see it as a central part of the game. Instead, have a look at everything else, play those, and then, you know, the grinding will come as you play. And you won't have to worry about too much stuff going forward. But yeah, I made a few videos on this, you know, how I approach it, what is the best way to approach it, what is, you know, generally not too bad. That's the way that it is. So you'll get much more out of those videos if you just check them out in the playlist. They'll be much more beneficial. Let's see. Then you have Kilda. Let's see. Could you do a video about War Thunder's business model? Maybe compare it to other free-to-play, free and pay-to-play games, and that kind of stuff, since so many people like to complain about War Thunder's business model and say it's pay-to-win. I mean, I could do. I've done it in the past a few times. I mean, we could... In January, there's usually a decent amount of time where not a ton's going on, so I can make videos like that. Usually people who think War Thunder is pay to win, it's usually because of either a small detail in the game, like a specific premium vehicle, or it's because of the fact that they haven't played a lot of other games in the genre. There's not many games which are as forgiving when it comes to their business model than War Thunder is. There's two that I can think of, Dota and Path of Exile. Path of Exile, you obviously have, you know, inventory space and cosmetics mainly. They're also, I think Path of Exile 2 is coming out soon. And then when it comes to Dota, you get all of the vehicles, all of the heroes, or whatever they're called nowadays, for free. And the things that you pay for as cosmetics, but also the company behind it is Valve, and they're able to basically freely advertise stuff like that through Steam because they own the Steam platform. So that's kind of useful. The standard winter event is a challenge event. So it's a mission score event nowadays, which sucks because it's sad. But yeah, so the War Thunder business model is super similar to a lot of other free-to-play games, where you have like the standard grinding, and then you have like the premium grinding. But a lot of people think it's unfair because of the time it takes. But the time it takes is always something which is going to be subjective, is probably the way to put it. So for some people, they're going to think it's too short. Other people are going to think it's too long. And at the end of the day, people like free stuff, and people like more free stuff. So, of course, people are going to want stuff to take less time. So it's just a balance between, you know, those factors. The thing that's actually way more, cultural as well is a big one as well. Like, I actually talked about this back in the day with some of the Russian guys. What's weird, in a few places like Russia, it is actually kind of seen, and also places like Korea, for example, it's seen as, like, it should take that much time to grind out it because of the fact that you can, you know, get it for free. Like, they understand that putting in that amount of effort is what is needed, because, you know, that's how the cookie crumbles. But yeah, some cultures are different, you know. And also at the same time, the other one to talk about as well, which, as I said, is more concerning for me, is a lot of games, like Call of Duty, for example. Assassin's Creed has been doing this for a long time too. Even a few others that are around the place. They're basically just putting free-to-play mechanics into their paid games. So, you know, the whole Battle Pass model, the whole, like, secondary currency model. If you think about, like, Call of Duty with their... I don't know what they're called, but you know what I mean. Like, they have, like, Call of Duty coins, right? The FIFA stuff, obviously, you know, since that's also a paid game, or at least it was. I don't know if it is now. But yeah, so that to me is what's more concerning, where you take a model which, the idea is you either put in time or you put in money, and even then with War Thunder, you can actually put in time with War Thunder now to get money for the game, which a lot of other games do not offer at all, by the way. And also, the other thing is just so many games now, so many AAA games just take the same ideas and implement them in an environment, which means that they basically get the best of both worlds. So you pay, like in my area, you pay like, let's say $120 for the Exquisite edition of a game. And then you find out it has a battle pass and it costs this amount of coins and you can't grind out the coins, so you have to buy them. So you have that situation, and then they have some skins, but the skins are only available during this time, so you either get them or you don't, right? It's a pretty awful model, and it's basically just taking the worst of both sides of things and putting them together. Like War Thunder's business model, is it the fairest out there? I mean, it really depends on what you mean by fair. Do you get the most free stuff out of it compared to everything else? No. That's Dota. And as I said, the reason why it's Dota is because it's propped up by Valve through Steam, right? So that is probably the most fair model. Or CS2. Once again, same idea. But at the same time, it's not something that everybody can do. And I just think personally, when I look at those things, like War Thunder's model compared to, Armored Warfare, compared to World of Tanks, and compared to the vast majority of free-to-play or paid games out there, is pretty good. Which is why the player base is pretty decently sized nowadays in War Thunder, where before it just wasn't, Like, if the business model was so heinous and was so aggressive and was really bad, people wouldn't play the game. I know there's this belief that, like, everybody's a masochist and everybody, really just likes getting beaten up all the time, like, through a video game. That's not the case. People like to win. People like to feel good. People like to, smile and have fun. And since the game is offering that, and, doesn't seem to be annoying a decent amount of people, then it's doing alright. I could do a video comparing them all. I think it would make much more sense. Hey Abby, nice to see you. It would make more sense to do the comparisons on an individual basis. Because there are so many games out there, and they all have, different expectations and different ideas behind them. But we could definitely do that. Bit of comparisons. People tolerate it from the governments. Why wouldn't they tolerate it from a video game? Because you can't turn off a government? What? You can't uninstall a government? Like, I can't just be like, hey, I don't like this government. I'll just go with another one, It's not as easy as that. Even if you, like, vote in other people, like, the infrastructure doesn't change. If I'm not enjoying War Thunder, I can go play, like, 1,000 other games. Like, shit. God damn. Sure you could? Not as easy as uninstalling a video game. Like, goddamn. As somebody who has moved country and gone through all of the, the rigmarole of doing that, good old student visa, work permit, permanent resident, citizenship, like, done all that stuff. I tell you what's a lot easier: a right click, left click. Oh god, man. But yeah, so Let's see. So we have Ruka. Why not create a game mode that has no cast, just ground forces, in addition to the existing game modes that we have? This would stop all the arguing of people wanting to keep cast in the game and people wanting it removed. You can't just infinitely spawn game modes. What if you want a game mode which doesn't have casts? What if I want a game mode that doesn't have SPGs or SPAAs and just has medium tanks, right? So it's just, it kind of is just depends where you put the line. I mean, you could trial something like that, see how many people play it and stuff, and then work out if, you know, you want that in. But one of the core philosophies of War Thunder is the idea of having this, you know, melting pot of different stuff coming together. So it's one of the core philosophies they've had since day one. The game was always going to be this like big conflict game. That's why they put so many resources into World War mode. That's why they, you know, tried to focus on just PT boats and not like larger ships, because they wanted to try and put everything together, right? And, you know, they've done a pretty decent job at it. The thing about adding other modes, which is always forgotten about, is two things. So first of all, in a ideal scenario, you have 50% of the people who are playing one mode, they go over to play the other mode. Okay? So now you split the player base of that mode in half. Now let's say, like, just to be as simple as possible, no other factors are involved, and it is an exact amount of people who were playing at each BR range, right? Each BR range, and now they're playing the other one. So now you've doubled the queue times for everybody. Now that may not seem like a lot, especially right now, since especially for ground, queue times are very short, but it will put some people off the game. I will always remind people what their creative director for World of Tanks said. What is the best queue time, or what is the perfect queue time in his opinion, or what is the best kind of matchmaker in his opinion, and what he said was 0 seconds. He didn't say most balanced. He didn't say, you know, just this vehicle versus this vehicle. He didn't say anything like that. He said the one which takes you from the hangar to the battle as quick as possible, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to play the game. They don't want you sat around not doing anything, because that's why you're there. You're there to play the game. So now you have to work out, you know, what factors are you going to build into the game to make it so it's fun to play, but also easy to get into battles, right? So pretty much as simple as that. But let's say, so you've increased queue times by 2, okay? Now, as I said, some people will be fine with that, other people won't, and that will just be how it is. So that's in like the perfect scenario, right? Now let's talk about what actually happened, because we have a metric ton of evidence of this, right? Metric ton of evidence, not just in War Thunder, but in other games. Okay. Oh, the movie was fun, Abby. Very slow to start, incredibly slow first 20 minutes, but after that, it basically just became New Age Shaun of the Dead. So it was quite nice. So you have those, right? But what happens in reality, and this happened in Enlisted, it's happened in War Thunder, and it's happened in Call of Duty and many other games. What happens is if you have multiple modes of something, and they're not events, you have people who go to only specific areas of the game and never touch anything else. So, for example, if you have 5 major modes, right, and War Thunder has actually slightly changed how this trend is, because they have way more modes than most games do when you actually think about it. Like when you add in the PvEs, the simulators, you know, the arcade stuff, the events that they do. Like, it's just nuts the amount of modes that they have, and to try and keep them all populated. But if you have a look at something like Call of Duty or Halo, FPSs in general, or even World of Tanks, right? Or any other game, they usually center around one or two modes. And the reason is because you have this situation where when a game is launched, especially since now people have like ingrained this in their heads of like 10 or 15 years, you have a scenario where the vast majority of people will play one game mode. Just one, right? So, for example, in COD, let's say the vast majority just play deathmatch or team deathmatch. Yeah. Then what will happen is you can introduce a new mode. Let's call it search and destroy. So this new mode, right, is new. So everybody goes to play it. Let's say it then evens out. So it goes 80-20 and now it's 60-40, right? So 60% of people are playing search and destroy, 40% of people are playing the old mode. So what ends up happening in this scenario is every new person who comes to the game after that point, they get told by the majority of people that, hey, these are the two like kind of game modes that everybody plays, but also the major one that people play is this one, right? So they go play that. So now it becomes 70-30. So now you've got a bit of a problem because it's imbalanced, and also the queue times for the search and destroy game mode are a lot quicker than the other ones. And therefore more people start flocking to the search and destroy than the domination, or sorry, the team deathmatch, right? Now, you either have enough people there to... you either have enough people there, even though it's a lower percentage, to keep the queue time short and also playing constantly to be able to run everything, so that's fine. Or you have a scenario where one side gets tilted so much to the other way, so 80-20 or 90-10 the queue times, and also just getting into battle or just playing with friends. Because remember, if you're playing with friends in moments like that, there'll be a lot of your friends who are like, hey, I want to play this game mode. So more than likely, if you play with people, you're going to play the search and destroy one over the team deathmatch one. So now you're at 80-20 or 90-10. And then, eventually, that first game mode, because it wasn't slightly as popular previously, it dies. Because all of the new players are playing that one game mode, and all the pre-existing players are playing that other game mode because they want quick matches and everyone else is playing it. So when you have games which have like millions of game modes all the time, what usually happens is over a period is they reduce the amount of game modes they have because they do not have the population to sustain them. The more recent game that did that was actually the Halo game, and a lot of hardcore fans got really annoyed at the guys who manage Halo right now. I don't even know who it is, but they got super annoyed at them. But that's why they did it, because you have a massive imbalance in what people want to play. So yeah, that's why like adding new game modes is something you got to be super careful about. It isn't just something that you can do that. It's like the BR decompression thing, right? These aren't decisions that are made lightly because you can end up nuking parts of the game. And they won't recover because all of those new players that you're hoping just randomly appear out of nowhere to play the old stuff. It happened in Enlisted, like multiple times. Every time they brought in a campaign, did it bring in, that extra percentage of a player base? When they added Stalingrad, did the player base increase by 20%? And did they all go and play Stalingrad and everybody else kept playing the same campaigns as they did before? Or did what happened actually happen, where all the players who liked playing Germany filtered into Berlin because that's where they were dominant, all the players who liked the Soviets filtered into Moscow, and all the players who liked America filtered into Japan, and then all the players who liked Italy, which there was like 2 of, played North Africa, and same with like the British stuff. So all of these campaigns basically ended up, you only had one side to them actually playing against each other. Oh, sorry, one side playing, whereas the other side was just bots. Because they added too many campaigns. It's a perfect example of... it's a perfect example of that. In real time. It also had a bunch of other issues as well. The fact that a lot of the campaigns, it was like, hey, so different maps, but you literally grind out all the same equipment. So why the hell would you do that? But yeah, so it's just how it is. Then we have Ander Taylor. You make my day with your vids. That's very kind. We'll continue. Going into the new year, it should be quite fun. The second channel is also having a lot of fun as well. Setting all that up. There's stuff scheduled on there until like 2025, so gonna have a lot of fun going forward with it. And we have No Guard. When do you think we're getting another update decal collection decal? Thought we'd get one with Kings of Battle, but no new collection. They do one per year, don't they? So after this update, they do. I'm pretty sure they do one per year. So they do one every 5 updates. So yeah, I'll be very surprised if they don't do that, because like they have done for 3 or 4 years now. We'll probably also get a collection for the winter event too. So some of the winter event stuff looks kind of cool. Pretty happy with it. They're actually doing some naval flags as stuff, which is nice. So they're using the naval flags as unlockables. Oh, the weather outside is frightful. So that's cool, and hopefully they continue to do stuff like that. It would be really nice if they did. I don't know if they're gonna do Twitch drops or anything like that. The thing they did last year for the esports stuff, right? They've been kind of hammering that down with the esports stuff now, so wouldn't be too surprising that if they do more stuff like that going forward. I was just thinking, I need to find a presentation that talks about adding multiple modes to things and why it's usually not exactly the best idea. Hey Polska, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Hopefully life's alright. Hopefully you're doing well. So we have Based American Boy. Wonder where he's from. More North Korean air vehicles could be added for China, kind of like Finland and Sweden. A bunch of Russian ones. The Su-25. You need to watch the parades they do. The North Korean parades are fantastic because they're fully edited, and they even add in like sound effects. Like when they like swing their swords, they do a proper like and then when they do the flags, like we watch them on stream every year. They're fantastic. I always have a great time watching them. Like I'm looking forward to when the Chinese do one, because they're always pretty good. They don't do them that often though. Bloody Nigeria did one this year. Poland did a huge one. Poland did an absolute massive one this year, which was kind of interesting, showing a bit of prowess as you do. But yeah, kind of cool to see. Yeah, you got the Su-25, you got all the MiG series, the Mi-8, the Mi-24. Like North Korea literally only uses Soviet technology when it comes to air, so pretty much for China, like since they have everything else already, you're looking at rude. Oh, you're looking at the Su-25, which wouldn't actually be a bad idea. But yeah, they They did do a really funny thing with the SU-25 pilots. They did like the Top Gun thing where they like put on the aviators and do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. It was so good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The North Koreans are more interesting from a ground vehicle point of view. From an air point of view, they're pretty boring. So we have Type 10. Hey Tech, I find it funny Southeastern City is Hong Kong without looking like Hong Kong. Imagine War Thunder outlasting Fortnite? Probably not. Do people react to you being in their match? Also, which console could get War Thunder live skins? I don't know why not. Maybe it's the hardware. GigaChad Tech should be a face decal. F-35 should be 5.0. Trust me. Have a great day. I don't know why. I don't know why they can't get camos. I'm guessing it's the fact that the way it works in good old what do you call it? The way that it works in PC is you actually modify the game files. So you create a user skins folder and then you put in the user skins there. I don't know if you have that. Can you do that on console? Like, are you actually able to modify your files of a game? Because I thought that was one of the big things you weren't able to do, right? Unless, obviously, you know, I'm talking out my ass. But I think that's the major issue with it. So if they added a feature like that, I mean, I remember there was a big thing for one of the Final Fantasy games where in Final Fantasy on, I think it was PlayStation, they gave you some graphical options on console, and that was seen as like a huge deal because obviously before that, you know, the consoles don't really get graphical options, which is, it's just a bit mind-blowing. Like when, you know, you think about the amount of stuff that PC has and the amount of kind of little tweaks and changes you can do with all this stuff, it's nuts to think about. But yeah, so when I think about it, it would be cool if it existed. I think they would have to create a full portal, right? Like for all that stuff, and maybe with the changes they made to the forums, the idea is to do that. But I honestly don't know, like, how it would work. Like, it would be cool. Like, once again, like, if more people get access to stuff, that's always going to be positive. There's never going to be a negative there. I'm always going to be for that. Never going to be against people not getting access to things. So I think it sucks the way that a lot of the systems work right now when it comes to War Thunder. That would be cool. And yeah, when it comes to a lot of their maps, they do what do you call it? Hey, nice. They do inspirations, I think is probably the way to put it. So they use certain areas of the world to inspire to make maps. Like that volcano map, they actually said what it were based around. Some area in the Caucasus or something like that. But yeah, so they do that quite a lot, which is cool. So hopefully that is something that, you know, people can appreciate. And Hong Kong, it wouldn't surprise me at all if that was something which was kind of focused on from them. Right, so we did Coastal Aggressor, which is nice. I'm not gonna do this today, I'll do this tomorrow. But yeah, simple as. So we have Chaotic Leet. Never really understood the Leet thing. I'll just transfer some files over. Tell Gaijin, maybe it's better to implement maps and design maps the way so every type of vehicle can be played correctly and the way the vehicle is designed for on all maps. I mean, right, let's sit down and have... Right, let's read the rest first. Small maps where you simply drive into the middle of the map without any cover or good map positions and just shooting into bases doesn't make the game better or interesting. Especially in high-tier maps, the combat should look like cover shooting, long-range engagements, not spamming your vehicles into the enemy with 8 respawns and only having small city maps with capture points in the middle of it. It's just blatantly bad map design by statistics. For what people are researching, laser rangefinder for long-range snipes when you actually only get most of the times maps like Advanced to the Rhine, Rank 8 will not fix this issue most likely. Well, since ranks have absolutely nothing to do with matchmaking, I completely agree with you. Secondly, the statistics argument is wrong. The map rotation filter, which is something that for some reason a ton of people forget about, was specifically designed so people could pick what type of maps that they wanted. And also on top of it, pick maps and it would give Gaijin kind of guidance on what people would want to play in certain areas of the game. What you see right now in War Thunder is the years of statistics that they're based off that off. So they left everything open for like everybody for like a year and a half, 2 years. And then in this year, they've gone, okay, we're going to start putting in the maps that you guys have said are good at each of the tiers. So the maps that you get are based on statistics. And also, you cannot make a map which is built for every type of vehicle. It is impossible. There are maps in this game, there are vehicles in this game that cannot at all do what they're designed to do in real life. Think about even recently stuff like the M109. The M109 was added, right? The M109 can never do its proper rolling game at the moment. It can't exist. So the idea of making everything functional to how it works in real life is impossible. The thing I like about smaller maps is when I'm grinding modifications for a vehicle and I don't have laser rangefinders and I don't have the really nice APF SDS and I don't have the really good mobility and I don't have any of those things. Smaller maps negate a lot of those factors. So the way that it works right now, I think, is good. You basically get, a bit of both. And you can use the map rotation filter to see more stuff than the other. Hey Astro, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully life is alright. And we have Mike Ford. Well, RT should be able to kill you without seeing them, but the need to put an aiming system for RT long distance, we're using RT like MBT at the moment. No, thank you. It is not fun being killed by things you can't see. Guided bombs, drones, artillery strikes, 80 gems from helicopters. Give it a rest. It's not fun. It never will be fun. If they add more and more factors, it will just get to a point where you will just get nuked by random things all the time, and you will get sick of the game. It already happens to people at certain BRs. We do not need more. I'm good, Astro. Life's alright. Just a bit under the weather, but doing okay. And we have Kevink. A lot of naive people here. RT is the definition of toxic in mortar tanks, as is submarines and mortar warships. Glad you're going down the same road. Not good. Stop kidding yourselves. If they are no longer used like tanks, and instead are long-range game destroyers, the game will be brutal. Yeah, because in mortar tanks, you can balance by the amount of damage that they do. Can't do that in War Thunder. Like, the way that they fixed artillery in World of Tanks is to obviously add that splash thing and the daze thing on crew. So they don't do as much damage to vehicles, but they daze the crew. You can't do that in War Thunder. Don't exist right now. So yeah, there's as we talked about before, there is a lot of people who, for some reason, have this idea in their head that if it can be added, it should be added, without any of the ramifications being thought about, or anything around it even being discussed. It is simply, it exists in real life, it should be in the game. It's a silly idea. Or the other thought is, I've played it in another game, it should be in this game. Which is also a silly thought. Because all you have to do for 2 seconds is have a look at that game and work out why people stopped playing it. So then we have Andrew Fitzsimmons. Evans. Always like a double barrel. Hey Tech, do you think the Set V2 will get the M829A3 APF SDS? The Set V2 and V3 Tank Commander are sad to see and not have access to that round. Also, I think there should be the option to remove the Tusk armor. There are also versions of the V2 that didn't have the crows, I think for the player's sake. The crows should be removable as well, because hiding an extra 3 feet will not be easy. So I think what they're going to do with the rounds is they're just not going to give the better rounds to them yet. And then they're going to see how balanced they are or how well they're doing. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to just put them in with the standard rounds that exist. Maybe give like one of them like a better round. And then from there, if ones are underperforming, then they'll give them better rounds. But I don't see how any of the top vehicles that they're adding are going to underperform. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a problem, right? Because once again, historically they should have these rounds, but also if you gave them these rounds, they become overpowerful. It's like when they gave the 2A6 the DM53, right? They had to nerf it twice, and then also it still dominated the game for like a year or 2 years, and still to this day has the best round in the game. And that vehicle came out 4 years ago, I think. Just think how nuts that is. Just as like a general thought, right? I do wish they would make stuff a little bit more modular. I do agree with that. I wish there was more modifications for these types of things, but it seems like, you know, as somebody who's played a lot of the challenges, I think the way that they see it is, oh, well, we can take this vehicle and now we have 3 separate variants. So we have the V2 with the Tusk, then we have the V2 without the Tusk, then we have the V2 without the crows, and then we have the V2 without the array on the side, right? Or the ARAX or the ATAX or whatever it's called. So technically right there, I've just made you four variants of the Abrams. And, you know, when you think about high tier MBTs, that's what they've done. You know, there's like 5 different Challenger 2s. Does there need to be 5 different Challenger 2s? No. They all, like the 2, the 2F, the TES, and now the OES, all play exactly the same. There is no difference between them at all. Right? Same with like the M1A2s, the M1A1s. There's slight differences or more differences. And then also think about the Leopards. 2A5, 2A6, 2A7, 2A5 PSO. The only difference is the gun and which round it has access to. Right? So, Ariete, PSO, Ariete, and V Ariete, right? Like, Leclerc Azure, Leclerc S21, Leclerc. Like, they all fundamentally play the same, they just either have different rounds or extra weight, which is worthless. So, yeah, it's one of those things that, obviously looking towards the future, they'll add them in, but probably as separate vehicles. Which, I understand is boring, but at the same time, it fills lineups, which is something, you know, I feel like a lot of people need at high tiers, and also means that you have a pretty more like balanced area of the game. But with the backups changing how that's working, that might not even be an issue anymore. Might be worth going through that at some point. I'd like to see more interchangeability. Just like Osketten, you know, Winterketten, stuff like that. I find that stuff more interesting. Yeah, that's true, Redned. Yeah, because you'd have the BMP-1 and then the BMP-1P, right? I think I would actually prefer that, because it would have meant that balancing it's a bit easier. Yeah, that's the other thing, like, Zara, like, when you get one shot in World of Tanks by Arty, like, you know, what was your counterplay? Oh, sorry, you shouldn't have been there. Oh, okay. Well, I'll work on that next time. So then we have Cal Garcia. That man is very mad at Cass. I mean, well, a lot of people are very mad at Cass, you know, and it's because of the fact that aviation dominates the battlefield, and when you're in third person, it's very easy to spot things, and also because of how the spawning mechanics work in War Thunder, it's very easy to see where 70, 80, 90% of the people are on a map, because you don't actually have to see them to know where they are. Because most people follow the same patterns because they have to, because of where the capture zones are. Hey Tovrish, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. We're just doing the tech talk, having a bit of fun. Hopefully you're doing well. So we have Maxol. Where is my T-26-4 gameplay? At least give me that. I do actually have some, I think. But that vehicle is very weak. Not a huge fan of not a huge fan of the T-26-4. That's a vehicle. The good old donkey thing. I don't know if that thing has shrapnel or not, actually. Should probably check. And we have Kiwi Flyer. I'm 3,700 hours into War Thunder and only at top tier through the SU-25BM. Closer to 2,000 hours of actually playing the game. Should I care? No. No, not at all. Top tier is not a goal that should be, like, looked to. If that's the case, everybody should play Italy and use the TAF and then just get to top tier within, like, 1 or 2 days, you know? Top tier is something that I feel like is used as a goal for people to kind of attain to, because they have this weird thought in their head about, like, that is the finish line. But it just isn't, you know, especially since War Thunder as a game is always ongoing. So even if you get to the top tier, all you got to do is wait 3 or 6 months, and hey, guess what? You're no longer top tier. So now you got to grind out the new vehicles. And people get stuck in that cycle of, oh, well, I got to play the new things. It's like, well, no, you don't actually. Like, if you're not enjoying it, just don't do it. Like, the main thing I think you should be focusing on when it comes to War Thunder is finding the parts of the game that you enjoy, whether it's BR brackets, whether it's doing achievements, whether it's doing, you know, dailies, whether it's just being in custom battles, and doing that and having fun, and then trying a bunch of the different things as you go around. So not getting stuck into one place, but also just doing the thing that makes you smile and laugh. And if you can't find that, then, you know, it's worth checking out a bunch of other games. There shouldn't be a singular point in War Thunder that you focus on. There should be a bunch of little points that you look at in different ways. So you shouldn't be hyper-focused on trying to do one thing. You should have a bunch of little goals and a bunch of little things to look at. That's how, at least in my opinion, you enjoy the game the most. Because you'll be able to complete little successes as you go along. And that will feel good. And, you know, it'll put you in a happy place. And it'll be exactly what gaming's supposed to be. Fun. So we have Churches Le Soir. Why not V1 or V2? Seriously, Gaijin losing its brain. Make the game a game and not a pre-programmed Muppet show. Rest of no interest. Sounds like a rap from the 90s. See if I can find a 90s rap beat. I don't know how the V1 or the V... Well, the V1 is in the game, actually. It's in one of the user missions. Let's see. Mm-hmm. What is this? They'll be like, why not V1 or V2? Seriously, Gaijin losing its brain. Make the game a game and not a pre-programmed Muppet show. Rest of no interest. Like, it should just be something like that. Much better. We should start rapping these things. So then we have Alex, not first. Winky, unsmiley face. Sad. Hopefully you're doing okay. You okay? Hopefully life's alright. Hopefully you're feeling good. Poltard says Benelux and Slavic tech tree, please. I played a game that I want to go back to, and it's called Ancestors Legacy. That was a fun one. Had a bunch of little campaigns, which were all about the idea of kind of reliving past historical events for different nations. And it was fun. You had like mini campaigns, you had like a Saxon campaign, you had a Slavic campaign, there was an Arabic campaign, I believe. And it was just following like key characters, and it was all set up in like, you know, kind of Halo Wars-esque little campaign missions. You know, you go here, you build like a little base, and then you go to the next place, build another base, and control like a few units of people. It was really cool. I do want to get back to play that game. I just haven't had time to do it. And of course, our boy Lafouche with the 3 TEC decals. Lovely to see. A good end to a very long tech talk. So I was a little bit slower in this one. I'm ill, so, you know, it's not a great excuse, but it is an excuse. And we did get through it. I was actually contemplating not doing one this time, just because of the dev server stuff. But I thought, you know what, let's just get it done. You know, let's sort it out. Let's keep it all together. I mean, hopefully you guys are enjoying the dev server stuff. I'm sure there'll be another one next week. Wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the case. And at the same time, I think it'll be a good few weeks. Hopefully there's not too much going on. Hopefully hopefully you have a good lead up to Christmas. A lot of people have been going on recently about what can and can't go into what tech trees. The Gripen C not in Sweden, the Bishma going to the UK and so on. I mean, that's fair. Do you think the game is ready for all the new jets? Yeah, the new jets don't really add anything in terms of mechanic. By the way, yeah, if you guys have any questions on Twitch, obviously ask, so you know we could get through some. But yeah, the new jets don't offer anything different to what we have at the moment. The only difference is the hyper maneuverability of some of them, which feels really janky on the dev server. Really, really janky. Like, it just feels like the Gripen and the Su-27 really don't feel like they're ready. And I don't know if it's just, you know, me being a boomer or, you know, or around other things. The Rheinbote missile. What is that, Red Ned? The nations are a representation of real life ones. They are designed to mirror those nations in real life. Yep, you're completely right. But the problem is, Teddy, you need to explain that to a nationalist who is too involved in what a flag looks like. So, opinion on this forum post? What is it? It's time for AIM 9X. Why is he ping Stoner and Esmond? I should say, it's time. Western nations suffered long enough to deserve a real thing to stand against Soviets. In face of upcoming super maneuverable Su-27 with OP thrust vectoring R-73, all Western jets should get the real counter for it. And this is the AIM 9X, which is only capable to kill super maneuverable jets like the Su-27. Western jets deserve equal AAM, so Guardian, please. Right. I think I'm good. I wonder what happens when we get to a stage where... Because a lot of people's beliefs is literally, okay, this thing is too good, we need to get something that's better than it and hammer it. Like, it really is just a power creep kind of setup, right? Like, that's how a lot of people think, and it's very scary. What happens when you run out of that? What happens when you get to a point where you can't add the next level, you know? Yeah, I'm sure it is a complete troll post, because it's by a dude who's a literal lizard. But, yeah, it's just... It's an interesting, like, thought thing, right? What happens when you run out of the power creep? Where do you go? I don't know. The one on the right? Oh, that's pretty big. Goddamn. Looks fun. Alright, well, what we'll do is, nice to see you, Raphael. I'm doing good. Life's alright. I'm just a bit full of mucus. But I'm doing okay. Hopefully you're doing good too. We'll wrap up the tech talk now. It's been a very good one. We got the challenge done. We got our dailies done and also just kind of chilled. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll still be streaming on Twitch afterwards, but just got to wrap it up for YouTube. So if you have any thoughts, feelings, comments or whatever, make sure to stick them in the description on YouTube, or sorry, comment section on YouTube. Look after yourselves. Peace be with you, and bye-bye.